This is a tale out of a Southern Gothic novel. Greed, jealousy, false trails, envy. It was a fairy tale Cinderella kind of story that's supposed to have a happy ending.
Great look to right.
Lorenzen was an absolute force on the court.
He was an instant millionaire.
Just as fast as he was making money, money was being spent.
And he loved the ladies. The ladies loved him too.
It was almost like he was just blind with love.
She put moves on him like karate chop that they don't do in Mississippi.
She saw a future with a millionaire.
And then, out of the blue, Lorenzen Wright went missing.
If he's missing, he doesn't want us to know where he is.
Developing tonight, a former player disappeared and...
We got to investigate.
What was your interaction like with the police?
I was on them. Check this person out and this person out. I am the mother of Lorenzen Wright.
I mean, that's a mother's love for their child.
Oh my God, when I heard that story,
I didn't know what was going on. I felt like I was in the twilight zone.
Is it impossible that his friends, people who knew him and loved him, might not have known about this other side?
Georgetown 911, where's your emergency?
To actually hear the 911 call is blood curdling.
and you hear gunshot.
You hear that dispatcher say hello over and over again.
Hello? Hello?
You hear the gunshots and you hear silence.
Well, I got nothing but gunshots.
That 911 call and what would come after would start a mystery in the city of Memphis that would transfix it for more than a decade.
It was the whodunit of all cases in Memphis history.
Describe Memphis to me.
Great city, great town. Culture.
Think Elvis.
Elvis Presley even recorded the song Memphis, Tennessee about his hometown.
Long distance information, give me Memphis, Tennessee.
But I think of the blues. I think of B.B. King, I think of Beale Street. Memphis is the birthplace of the blues and rock and roll.
People in Memphis love to talk about the music. What they don't like to talk about as much is the crime.
Every time you turn the TV on, you hear of someone being murdered.
3 people were shot and 1 man died.
Being robbed.
An attempted robbery led to shots being fired.
Stabbed, was shot.
But the shooting took place on Chestnut.
It's an ongoing thing, man.
Memphis has always been this city of haves and have-nots.
Probably 30 to 40% of our people are below the poverty line. And Memphis has had its share of crime through the years.
These disparities, both racial and economic, they're still there in Memphis.
But one thing brings Memphis together, and that's basketball.
Basketball bridged a racial divide in Memphis.
It's one of those binding things that brings people together from all walks of life.
You gotta understand, people from Memphis, they just love whoever plays for them. So imagine if that player is homegrown.
Trail by 5, dribble drive, left hand followed by Lorenzen Wright.
That love then just becomes off the charts. This is why what happened to Lorenzen Wright was such a big deal. It's why I went there, to really sit down and talk to the people who knew him best. Who is Lorenzen Wright?
Lorenzen Wright was one of the best human beings that ever drew breath on this earth.
A lot of good basketball players come out of here. He was one who really made it big.
It was even noted on TV broadcasts.
He come to Memphis as a superstar, so his name was all over the media, was all over the press.
He stood out. He was a hometown hero.
My name is Deborah Marion, and I am the mother of Lorenzen Wright.
Describe what it was like bringing Lorenzen into this world.
Ooh, honey. First of all, he was a big child. He couldn't just lay in my lap, because he was just too long.
So he was so long his head came off your knees?
Yes.
His mother had him at a very young age, and he was raised by his mother and grandmother within the same home.
Lorenzen's mom and dad were never married, and Lorenzen's dad, Herb, didn't live in the family home, but he was still a big part of Lorenzen's life.
By 7th, 8th grade, he was already playing with the high school team. And that's when they decided to move to get him around better competition.
Literally everywhere, they were talking about Lorenzen, even in high school. Yes.
So Lorenzen decides that he's going to go to Memphis State.
The folks in Memphis love it when Cincinnati comes a-calling. A sellout crowd expected tonight at the Pyramid.
Lorenzen drew people to the Coliseum to watch basketball. They didn't know anything about basketball.
The entire city was just buzzing with the excitement of him playing for the college.
Continues to go to, look at Lorenzen Wright on the jam.
Lorenzen was an absolute force on the court.
Exciting, athletic, big.
He loved people. He loved children. He was just a big baby.
He was a yes sir, yes ma'am person. He was raised right. That was Lorenzen.
He always had that big smile with him. That smile would just light you away. It would always get anybody.
He was only in Memphis a couple of years before he went to the NBA.
Now it's the time for me to accept the challenge of playing with the best basketball players in the nation.
That NBA draft was on TV.
The Los Angeles Clippers select Lorenzen Wright from the University of Memphis.
Memphis just exploded. We were so happy, so joyous.
It felt like we all got drafted. We just went crazy.
He was an instant millionaire, and the Clippers would make the playoffs in Lorenzen's rookie season.
It was definitely life-changing for him.
People started calling him the Howl, because after he would score or dunk, he would let off this huge howl, like he was a wolf howling at the moon.
The transition out to California was a very, very big move. Money was no object.
It was a culture shock. Memphis is a big city, but it's a big southern city, and it's not like Los Angeles.
A few years later, that didn't matter. Lorenzen Wright was going back home.
Join me in welcoming Lorenzen Wright.
To be able to play high school ball, to play college ball, and then to play in the NBA in front of your hometown, I don't know if it gets any better than that.
The whole town is excited to have Lorenzen back, and he shows his gratitude by spreading his wealth around.
He is that proverbial guy that would take the shirt off his own back and give it away.
He took care of his childhood friends a lot, right? What would he do for them?
Cars for him and everything. Let him stay with him.
His house was the spot to hang out in. It was like Disneyland at his house.
He had a gigantic pool in the back. The number of bedrooms he had, the entertainment, it was really, really nice.
And he purchased his mother a home literally 3 minutes away.
At one point, he buys you a house. What did that feel like for you?
Oh, my, look at my baby. Look at my baby.
The little shortcut from Lorenzen's house to his mom's house was a little road.
Didn't nobody else parent live on one end and the child live on the other. That was our road, our little cut through.
It's called Callus Cutoff. Callus Cutoff.
It's not a road you want to drive down there. No lights.
That was a road that if you didn't know it was there, you didn't know it was there.
It's in the city, but it's actually just feels like you're out in the country. I mean, heavy woods on both sides. If you're driving, you just want to drive on through it. You don't want to stop.
Lorenzen had driven that shortcut maybe hundreds of times, and nothing had ever happened. He probably never thought for a moment that it might be dangerous.
And then, out of the blue, Lorenzen Wright went missing.
Police have joined in the search for missing NBA player Lorenzen Wright as his family is starting to fear the worst.
This is a millionaire. He's a basketball player. If he's missing, he doesn't want us to know where he is.
It was a fairy tale Cinderella kind of story that's supposed to have a happy ending.
That was the biggest mistake he ever made in his life. I think Lorenzen's strength came from the work ethic that his father instilled in him. On the court, he was a beast. Off the court, he was just a meek and mild individual.
So really, basketball was Lorenzen's entire life, really. Lorenzen met his wife through basketball.
Cheryl came into the picture his junior year of high school. He met her over the summer playing AAU basketball, and her dad was his coach.
golden brown skin, beautiful smile. She looked really good, very sexy.
She was easy on the eyes. I don't think he had never, ever came in contact with anyone that looked like Sherrod. I mean, she had all the goods.
We would say she knew she was fine and you didn't have to tell her.
There is a discrepancy about exactly when they started dating. Depending on who you talk to, she was in college when he was in high school.
He's a junior in high school, and here he is dating a junior in college, you know? He thought he was big time then.
They became friends, stayed in contact, and a few years later, that's when the relationship went from a friendship to a romantic relationship.
It was almost like he was just blind with love, right?
Yes. That girl crazy. She put moves on him like karate chop that they don't do in Mississippi.
I was hearing that Cheryl was wanting to get pregnant and to marry Lorenzen, assuming that he was going to be this great NBA basketball player.
When she saw Lorenzen, she saw a future with a millionaire.
Some of the people closest to Lorenzen see Shara as a gold digger.
So, were you concerned?
Very. He was listening on us, and I kind of like cooled down because I said, if I gotta like her a little bit, you know, to keep my son close to me.
You didn't try to disrupt the relationship because he loved her.
Exactly.
Deborah and Cheryl, they never got along. These two, they never liked each other. When she got pregnant, he was excited about it. You know, obviously his parents wasn't.
I don't think this was a situation where she was chasing Lorenzen and eventually wore him down to be with her. I think, if anything, it was the other way around.
So while we're in college doing the fraternity thing, she was about to give birth to Lorenzen Jr. at the time.
In between class and practice time, he would go see his baby.
Some of his friends and family feel that Shara has trapped him.
She knew once she had a child, it was over, marriage, because he wanted to be in the house with his child.
And at that point, you knew that she was going to get married to him.
Yes.
It was a couple years later that they got married. Of course, he had always told us that he wanted a big family.
As Lorenzen's NBA career blossoms, so does his family. He has a son, Lorenzen Jr., a daughter, Lauren, twins, Lamar and Shamar, Sophia, Lawson, and a daughter, Sierra, who died tragically of SIDS.
That could take a toll on any marriage, even a good one.
Family was everything to him.
For Lorenzen, his kids was everything to him. He spent his whole life, and everything he valued was based on his kids and his love for his kids.
What were those early days in the NBA? What was the marriage like between Shara and Lorenzen?
It was good.
The two of them were living well together. They were getting along.
Yes.
For an NBA player in a marriage, there's good news and bad news. The good news, you're making millions of dollars to support your wife and your family.
They had money. They had money, and they could go and buy things. And he loved cars, and she loved jewelry, and, they spent a lot of money.
Just as fast as he was making money, money was being spent.
The bad news, you're on the road a lot, and that comes with temptations.
He's a ladies' man. He loved the ladies. The ladies loved him, too.
And he would tell me every time the plane touched down, they'd be already there waiting. They were always trying to connect, trying to find out where the hookup places would be after the game.
Now, do I know that he cheated? Yes, hell, I know. I was with him half of the time.
When did they start struggling and why?
When he caught her with that guy.
He caught her being unfaithful.
Yes.
And that's when things started breaking down.
Yes.
The infidelity happened, to be fair, on both sides. So the marriage was complicated.
I think what happened to the marriage was that, they grew apart. Maybe there was some greed issues there. He would say things like, man, it's just always about money with her.
Did they have a lot of fights?
I've seen the evidence of some pretty bad brawls.
Told me the marriage ended because he didn't trust Cheryl anymore. She felt the same about him, but they were still going to try to find a way to raise these kids.
At that point, how was his relationship with his kids?
Fine.
He said this, Cheryl is the one who filed for the divorce, not Lorenzen. But he was not going to fight for it because he wanted it over with as well.
The post-divorce life between Cher and Lorenzen Wright appeared to be routine until that one July day when he went missing.
At that point, we said bye. They get out of the car, I drive away, and that's the last time I see my friend.
Georgetown 911, where's your emergency?
And when police would begin to pull back the curtain on Lorenzen's private life, the city of Memphis would learn some troubling new stories about its hometown hero.
There's another side to Lorenzen that you all don't know about.
It's the summer of 2010. Lorenzen Wright is living in Atlanta with his buddy Mike G.
When Lorenzen and Cheryl were divorced, he ended up moving to Atlanta. So I went and moved in on him, and, we just had a good time.
By this time, his NBA playing days are over. But what's not over, apparently, is his relationship with his ex.
Even though Shara and Lorenzen were divorced, they had certainly a physical relationship.
They still had an intimate relationship.
But it was more than just sex. People who know them say they were still in love and were even thinking of starting over.
Lorenzen did propose to Shara after they were divorced. The children saw him ask her to marry him, and Shara had said yes.
So on this one particular weekend that summer, Lorenzen's coming back to Memphis to visit. Shara calls him and asks him to go to a dance recital for their daughter, Lauren. And it turns out his sister Denotra is having a baby shower that weekend too. So he's got a lot going on.
I drove Lorenzen to the airport and fly out to Memphis. As I look back and now, I think that something was going on because Lorenzen was always on edge that whole week, which I thought was unusual.
Whenever Lorenzen came to Memphis, Phil would be the first person that he would call.
Completely unexpected, out of the blue. He calls me and says, "Hey, bud, I'm in town. Let's hang out." Just bought a new vehicle, and I wanted him to ride in it, and we rode all around the city. He took a picture on my phone of himself that evening.
To look at that photo, you would never know that Lorenzen Wright's life was in serious danger.
Just after 10 p.m. on this hot July evening, temperatures just now dropping below 90 degrees. Doesn't look like we're going to have any relief in sight. This is Tim Van Horn, and you're listening to WREC.
Just a few hours later, a 911 call comes into the nearby town of Germantown, Tennessee.
Germantown is just east of Memphis. It's one of the smaller municipalities right outside of Memphis.
It's a very short call, and you hear a desperate voice on there. You hear a series of gunshots.
Georgetown 911, where's your emergency? Hello? 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 I have nothing but gunshots.
There's no caller ID, so the dispatcher doesn't know where the call is coming from specifically. They thought this call was a hang-up.
There was no follow-up.
Operator picks up the phone.
Georgetown 911, where's your emergency?
And you hear gunshots.
Hello?
To me, that calls for immediate response.
Like, you leave it alone. You leave it alone?
For our report, 2020 reached out to the Germantown Police Department to ask why they didn't immediately follow up on that 911 call. They declined to speak with us. But at the time, a department review concluded that dispatchers properly followed procedures.
It was an opportunity lost. because on that call is the last time anybody would hear Lorenzen's voice.
I probably called him 4 or 5 times that night. And I texted him about 3 or 4 times. And I just really figured that, maybe he had fallen asleep.
He was supposed to be coming to the baby shower. I kept calling him all that day and he didn't answer the phone.
I was getting married July 20th in the Virgin Islands. And so he said that he was going to come over and be my best man. I get a phone call from one of my other great friends saying, hey man, Lorenzen is missing.
His friends weren't really concerned in the beginning because that was just Lorenzen.
It's like still living that NBA life. Those guys, they'd hop on a plane and go to Vegas.
Not hearing from him, it wasn't out of the norm.
But when Lorenzen's mother found out that he wasn't even calling his daughter Lauren back, that was too much for her. She filed a missing persons report.
When I first got the news, I got a phone call. Did you hear that Lorenzen was missing? Initially, I was not alarmed. I'm thinking if he's missing, he doesn't want us to know where he is. It's on purpose. I became concerned when I saw the concern in her face and in her voice.
When that missing persons report is made officially known, it becomes a major news story.
Developing tonight, a former player for both the Memphis Tigers and the Grizzlies has disappeared, and now his family is worried about his safety.
Talk just spread all over Memphis. Where's Lorenzen? What's going on?
So the Memphis Police Department starts a missing persons investigation. When somebody goes missing, you have to look at their circumstances at the time. They look at their inner circle. Is anybody new? Did they owe anybody any money?
What was Lorenzen's financial condition after basketball?
It was not good. It was not good at all, and that really affected him greatly.
Lorenzen Wright made as much as $55 million playing basketball. But because he and Cheryl were spending like crazy, there actually wasn't that much left.
So to compensate, he always had some side businesses.
I think he was doing the side businesses just to, try to create other streams of income for when he did retire.
He wants to invest in something else, have other things going on, His dad ran his sports cafe for him. He also had a car detailing shop.
Among those off-the-court business relationships, there would be one relationship that would come back to haunt Lorenzen Wright, a man named Bobby Cole.
Bobby Cole was a high-level drug dealer. How would Lorenzen be connected to a drug dealer? But Cole was not only a drug dealer, he was also a race car driver, and Lorenzen, as it turned out, loved cars. At some point they meet, and Cole agrees to buy 2 of Lorenzen's cars.
I remember him telling me, man, I sold the guy my cars. Now, what the guy was doing, I did not know.
The feds had actually looked into this long before Lorenzen Wright disappeared to see if any of his transactions with Bobby Cole involved drugs or drug money.
And the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, actually investigated that connection, interviewed Bobby Cole. They didn't find any connection.
But those drug rumors would actually start swirling again, this time when police interviewed his ex-wife, Cheryl.
She also told law enforcement that about 6 weeks earlier, she had gotten a visit from some unknown individuals that wanted to do Lorenzen some harm.
Cheryl Wright, in talking to investigators, claims that she saw Lorenzen leaving with a man she didn't know, carrying a box with drugs.
Kind of painting this portrait of a guy who's troubled, who's lost all his money. He's trying to make money illegally.
Is it possible that people who knew him and loved him might not have known about this other side that involved drugs?
Well, it's possible, but he told me about everything that he was dealing with. And I believe that if he had been doing that, I believe he would have told me.
This whole idea that he was involved in drugs, what did you make of that?
Y'all don't want me to say what I want to say.
But the police are on the brink of a breakthrough.
The investigation made a dramatic turn when Memphis police found out about that Germantown 911 call.
That revelation eventually leads investigators to that desolate road, the Callous Cutoff, the shortcut from Lorenzen's house to his mom's. And there, they will make a chilling discovery.
Since I've been growing, I've been strong and tall. I ain't ever met nobody that can keep me on a bar wall.
Lorenzen Wright's disappearance was all over Memphis TV.
Lorenzen Wright has not been seen since Sunday.
One local news crew even got his ex-wife Shara to come to the door.
He was fine. And he's fine now, and I'm not gonna believe anything other than that. He's fine now.
In those days after Lorenzen went missing, his friends are all trying to come up with plausible explanations as to where Lorenzen might be, that maybe he is fine. But there's one thing that keeps coming up, one thing that sticks out when they think back about the night he disappeared. In the hours after Lorenzen took that selfie in his friend's car, they remember that Lorenzen and Shara had a fight.
That evening, Phil and Lorenzen had been planning a father-son night with their boys. But suddenly, Lorenzen gets a call from Shara, and it was unpleasant.
I could hear Shara say, no, you bring him home now. He was like, okay, all right, fine. I don't want to argue with you. And so we drove on to the house.
Yeah, he was dropped off at Shara's house. He was just going to go see Shara.
And when we pull up at the house, he said, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to calm her down. And I'll call you later, and then we can go out.
So Phil drives away, having no clue that this is the last time he'll see his friend. Because a few hours later...
Georgetown 911, where's your emergency?
That 911 call, which might not have been investigated then.
Sound like nothing but gunshots.
But it is now. 9 days after Lorenzen went missing, police are all over it.
The call was revealed because they went back and checked their records, and they found that they had this desperate call from a man, 9 days earlier.
Once the 911 supervisors realized that there was a call made on that night, they did a triangulation and found the area that the call was made from. It's a rural area, a wooded area, not a lot of traffic.
And when police visit that wooded area, their worst fears are realized. They find the body.
Police in Memphis, Tennessee have found the body of former NBA player Lorenzen Wright.
Of course, it was a huge story on the local news.
They found him almost instantly. His body was found. There wasn't much left of it because it had been out there 9 days.
Even if you knew Lorenzen well, there was no way in the world that you could have identified his remains as him.
The condition of his body was shocking, that he had literally melted in the hot summer sun.
The 6'11", 255-pound NBA center was just 57 pounds when his body was found. Badly decomposed, investigators say he was shot at least 5 times.
When did you find out that he was dead?
When they found his body.
When I got that phone call, I just threw down the phone and just broke down,
It was really painful.
Me and my girlfriend jumped in her car and flew over there so quick. I was trying to get down there where he was because I wanted to walk his last step. Because me and him was like this.
So you went to the crime scene. It was as if you wanted to find a clue.
Right.
By literally walking in his footsteps. Yes. You could see a mother's anguish in real time as news cameras capture her desperation to see her son.
Lorenzen Wright's mother was ushered behind the crime tape by MPD investigators. She was visibly upset but did not speak to the media before leaving the scene.
They had her on the news. Where's my baby? Screaming out, where's my baby?
Did the police let you get into the crime scene?
They let for a little bit, but they wouldn't let me get all where he was. They let me get under the tape. I went under the tape anyway. Of course, they tried to stop me.
Did you see your son?
Nope. They wouldn't let me get that far.
This area is woodsy. It's quiet. It's really remote. That area was also not very far from that shortcut where Lorenzen Wright once lived near his mother, the Callis Cutoff.
The Callis Cutoff? That was a shortcut Lorenzen had taken hundreds of times. It's a strange place for his body to show up. Was it a clue? No one was concentrating on it in that moment.
No one was talking about the fact that, that he lived nearby.
The body turning up there, does it narrow the scope of people who were involved in it, or does it widen it? It's still very hard to tell.
Publicly, yeah, there was a lot of talk about other people being involved.
You talk to people and ask, did you know anybody, any reason why anybody would want to hurt Lorenzen? Was he involved in illegal activity?
They also found shell casings and actual bullets.
Turns out police found shells from 2 different caliber weapons. This is a critical piece of evidence. It means that more than one gun was used in the shooting.
Lorenzen was shot 5 times, but he was shot with 2 different guns. So we got another shooter.
But then it got really real to us. And he's gone. Somebody has killed Lorenzen.
I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, who could have killed my friend? Why would somebody want him to die?
The answers wouldn't come quickly. In fact, it would take a book written 5 years later to shed new light on the case. A book written by none other than Shara herself.
And then this book comes out, which almost appears to give clues.
We honor and remember Lorenzen Wright.
Lorenzen's funeral was almost a state affair here in Memphis.
It was held at FedEx Forum, a place where he once played basketball as an NBA player. And now it was where thousands of people came out to mourn the loss of their hometown hero.
They put together a beautiful ceremony. His pledge brothers, we were all pallbearers for the funeral.
I was asked to do the eulogy.
His smile was infectious, his work ethic unmatched, his generosity prolific, and his commitment unswerving.
The thing that I remember the most about the funeral is Shara hugging me and saying, "Thank you for such a beautiful eulogy." Ren would have loved that.
It was such a tragic situation, seeing his kids suffer like that, knowing they'll never see their father again.
This tragic moment, that funeral, it morphs into this, whodunit, because no one knew who did it.
At the beginning of a case, you have to remain objective and you have to let the evidence lead you. You have to prepare yourself to be surprised sometimes.
This is now essentially a cold case because 9 days have passed. A body has been in sweltering heat, which degrades evidence tremendously.
The killers had a 9-day head start on us. There were no witnesses, so this was not an easy case at all.
Because in these kinds of things, the spouse is always a suspect. They're looking at Shara hard.
My number one suspect was the person that I hear everybody else talking about, was Shara.
You were suspicious of Shara at this point?
Yes.
Okay, did you tell the police?
Yes.
What did they say to you?
We got to investigate.
We thought she was being forthcoming with information, and in the midst of that, she chose to lawyer up.
Lawyering up may not look good, but it doesn't mean she had anything to do with the man's murder. You need evidence if you're going to arrest someone.
And so far, there is no evidence that points to Shara.
And she denies involvement on a local interview.
If I knew who did this to Lorenzen, you would know who did this to Lorenzen.
When Shara was not arrested, it's like, well, maybe she didn't do it. Then started thinking about, well, okay, what about the drug thing? Maybe that went wrong some kind of way.
They were absolutely looking for guys who had come into Memphis, hitmen, to kill Lorenzen, and that just didn't make any sense at all. If a guy owes you a lot of money, what point is it killing him? You'll never get your money back by killing him.
We did look into it. I mean, if the ex-wife is telling us this, we have to investigate it.
What was your interaction like with the police?
I was on them.
How often did you go down there?
Every day.
Every day? Saying, I want you guys to get on this and find his killer.
And this person did this, and check this person out, and this person out.
We say mama bears take care of their cubs. She was relentless in her pursuit of justice for him.
not to let her son's life and legacy just go down the drain. I mean, that's a mother's love for their child.
Deborah Marion says she'll keep fighting until her son's killers are held accountable.
I'm never, ever, ever, ever gonna give up.
Every anniversary of his murder, she did a candlelight vigil.
Deborah Marion says the vigil is for family, friends, and the public to come together and remember Lorenzen.
Every birthday, she would release balloons at his gravesite.
My son ain't did nothing to nobody to be murdered.
But all of Deborah's efforts aren't making any difference. For years, the police don't arrest anyone, and Shara seems to have moved on with her life.
After his death, she became more involved in the church that she had already been a part of and did actually become a pastor in that church.
To me, of course, my own prejudice admitted she was no preacher. Her lifestyle had not changed. And she was just always after the money.
The people who want to accuse Shara of being involved in Lorenzen's murder point to the fact that she did receive $1 million payout from his life insurance policy.
Shara ended up in a long, protracted legal battle with Lorenzen's father, Herb, and he claimed that she was spending money on extravagant items and not on the children.
I didn't work from the time we separated.
She was buying fancy cars, and it got pretty dirty. You know, it was all of them in court, you know, fighting over the money.
That's common for family members to fight over proceeds and to end up in court. So that didn't have any significant impact on the case.
But an investigator never knows when something odd will come up. And in this case, something odd and unexpected does come up. Shara writes a book.
Cheap dime store novel type of book that is very curious, has a lot of clues about, you know, what happened.
The book is called Mr. Tell Me Anything. It's the story of a woman who has a tumultuous marriage with an NBA player. It's supposed to be fictitious, but it doesn't seem that way.
It's almost like a confession that falls short of fully confessing, and she wants publicity. So I interviewed her in July of 2015 for about an hour and a half.
Shara, I'm going to need you to speak up because I'm worried about the background noise.
Commercial appeal reporter Mark Paraschia conducts an extensive interview with Shara at a restaurant called J. Alexander's. It's a busy, trendy restaurant chain in Memphis.
Let me ask you this, Shara. The book, why did you write it? What are you hoping to accomplish?
The marriage, I mean, you go through your ups and downs. I just believe that when the downs become more overwhelming and there's more downs than ups, then that's the time to kind of go back and see which one outweighs the other.
In the interview, Shara explains that the NBA player depicted in the book is abusive, not just verbally, but physically. And she claims the character is based on Lorenzen.
Lorenzen had a problem with keeping his hands to himself. Or Mr. Tell Me Anything, this character did. And I grew him from Lorenzen, like I produced him from experiences with Lorenzen. And so, yeah, he had a problem with that.
You're planning a sequel too, right? If I read that right.
Yeah.
When is that coming out?
It's 90% done. It's going to take you all the way up to Mr. Tell Me Anything's death and just a little bit past it.
Is Mr. I mean, I don't want to give away your book, but is Mr. Tell Me Anything murdered?
Oh, yes, he is.
That was a kind of chilling moment in the recording. But see, it gives Paraschia an invitation to ask about the real-life circumstances surrounding Lorenzen's death.
Any idea who did this? Or
I don't know.
She missed her husband. She wanted them to find her, the killers, and that there's no reason for anybody to suspect her.
Did you have anything to do with his murder or his disappearance?
I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm an author. And the police should find his killer. For my name to be even in the same sentence or something like that, I'm a minister of the Lord. And I've never been in any type of trouble or anything. I'm a mother, an author, and a wife.
She just flat denies it. To me, she had was very convincing.
But Shara would soon appear very convincing to another reporter who comes to do a story on her. His name is Kelvin Cowens, and he's about to commit a cardinal sin for a professional journalist.
And I was like, she's tall, she's beautiful, I'm in trouble. We started dating immediately.
Kelvin Cowens may believe he's found true love, just as a Memphis dive team finds something critical at the bottom of this lake.
And the Grizzlies has disappeared, and now his family is worried about his safety.
Jordan 911, where's your emergency? Hello?
This is almost like a tale out of a Southern Gothic novel. Greed, jealousy, false trails, envy, cold-blooded murder. It's compelling on so many levels.
It's a soap opera gone awry.
Wright was found in a wooded area just outside Memphis.
This is not only a news story, but it's a sports celebrity story. It's a murder story all wrapped into one.
It's just one of those things that I could never put together. How does such an amazing guy end up dead and in a field?
It was a case that until we solved it, it was going to hunt us. It was literally going to hunt us.
But his mother, God bless her heart, she continued to keep it in the forefront, to keep it going.
I'm never, ever, ever, ever gonna give up.
But Deborah wouldn't give up on it.
She is absolutely the heroine. She is the hero of the story. She harassed literally the police department every day.
She kept the heat on the police. She was in the news media for years, criticizing them for not doing enough to finding out who killed her son.
She basically told me once I became the director, you're going to solve my son's murder. And you're not going to get rid of me.
You let everybody know that you would not rest until your son's killer was found.
Yes.
I wanted to solve it really, really bad. You know, not only for the city, for Lorenzen's mom and for his kids. I've never seen a mom to be that emotionally distraught over the murder of her child. And I've investigated a lot of murders. She was heartbroken. She was heartbroken, and it was very difficult for me to watch.
So while the case has gone cold, Lorenzen's ex-wife, Shara, has not withdrawn from the public, and many people are suspicious of that. The book she's written, supposedly fictitious, called Mr. Tell Me Anything, it's making headlines and raising eyebrows.
And it seemed to garner the attention of one man in particular, Kelvin Cowens. Cowens was a journalist who interviewed Shara about her book. He was one of the people I really wanted to talk to when I visited Memphis because of how close he said he got to her. What is Mr. Tell Me Anything?
For me, it was the inside look at an NBA wife.
What does the man do to the woman in this book?
Oh, man. He breaks her. He breaks her mind, he breaks her will. According to the book, affairs, there is some domestic violence in there.
I believe that the stories that were described in that book are based on what really happened, yes.
It does make Lorenzen look like a really bad guy.
In this book, there are specific descriptions of violence. And what do you make of that?
I just don't believe it. I think that is purely fiction.
If he was all of that, why she stayed with him so long? She could have got a divorce at any time and got plenty of money. Girl, please. I don't believe nothing she say. If she tell me that her hair is black, I said, no, it's orange.
I just believed it. I was like, she's bearing all.
Kelvin Cowens doesn't just believe her. He says he was romantically falling for her. It's something that, as a journalist, he admits was crossing the line.
While they were dating, and even after they moved to Houston, she completely convinces him that she had nothing to do with Lorenzen's murder.
Well, I'm like, if she had done something, they'd have her by now. I mean, I would have never moved away with her if I thought she was a killer.
Shara moved out of Memphis because she was tired of the suspicion and all the negative publicity she was receiving here.
Did anybody know who she was in Houston? Did anybody treat her in a certain way because of that?
No one treated her different. No one treated the kids different. It just wasn't a subject. We were embraced in Houston.
She moves to Houston, appears to live a quiet life, but one problem. Kelvin said he never could quite get used to Shara's love for money.
That was like, oh my God, not about money again.
Cowan says they started arguing because he says long after the fight over the insurance money, Shara still wanted more from the estate, and he claims it blew apart their relationship. Why was it the last straw?
Greed. I cannot believe that, your apex of life is still, how much more money can I get?
And you couldn't live with that?
I couldn't.
The relationship ends. Shara moves to California with the kids to be near her brother, and Kelvin moves back to Memphis. Neither of them are aware that the Memphis police are about to take a new look at Lorenzen's murder.
They call it Operation Rebound. They want to rebound, to use a basketball term, go through the evidence one more time, find that one key break.
I received a phone call from the Memphis Police Department, and he said, we want to run through everybody's story again.
By now, Tony Armstrong has left the department, but he's still following the case closely.
I immediately thought, okay, somebody has gotten themselves in a tight spot, and they're starting to talk.
The police suddenly announced, we found the murder weapon in a lake in Mississippi.
News about finding at least one of the guns was all over local news.
7 years later, the gun the killer may have used was found in a lake in Walnut, Mississippi in Tippah County.
How did you hear about them finding the gun in the lake?
They called me.
The news got around town. They found the gun.
And I'm like, what? You found after all this time, how? And now the next thing I'm thinking, okay, now who was it? Who killed Lorenzen?
And that's when this man enters the story. A man who cops say is the whole reason they found that gun in the lake in the first place. Because he claims he knows who put it there.
You mean what? Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me?
There is a Bible verse that says you can be sure that your sin will find you out. I knew someone was going to talk, and I knew for certain it was going to involve Shara.
The rebirth of the Lorenzen Wright murder investigation largely is built around Jimmy Martin.
Jimmy Martin was a 34-year-old former rap artist who went by the name of Trickster. He was also Shara Wright's cousin. Martin was convicted in a totally unrelated case with killing his girlfriend. But according to prosecutors, that's when he approached cops with a story about what he says happened to Lorenzen.
It was in between the conviction for second-degree murder and his sentencing that Jimmy Martin offered this story.
I can see him saying, you know what, I'm in big trouble. I need to give them some information that's going to lessen my time.
He meets with investigators and he has a story to tell.
So what you are about to hear is what prosecutors said in court is Jimmy Martin's story about what he says happened to Lorenzen. Jimmy tells investigators that Shara Wright is involved in Lorenzen's murder with one other person, a man named Billy Ray Turner.
Billy was the guy that cut the grass.
Billy Ray Turner was a landscaper, a yard man, who happened to be a deacon in a small country church that Shara attended.
Here's what Jimmy Martin supposedly told prosecutors about that landscaper, Billy Ray Turner.
Jimmy Martin says that he had once gone to Atlanta with Billy Ray Turner to try to kill Lorenzen. Remember, Lorenzen had moved to Atlanta after his divorce in 2010 and moved in with his old buddy, Mike Gibson.
I had no clue, no awareness of anything like this.
Prosecutors say Shara was also in Atlanta around this time.
There's underpinnings to Jimmy Martin's story because, you know, she did show up down there.
I can remember her coming to Atlanta for the first time to see the condo. Very unusual. She had never been down there.
And while Shara was there at the condo, Jimmy alleges, she was setting the stage for a murder.
Jimmy Martin says Shara Wright left the window open so he and Billy Ray Turner could go inside to kill Lorenzen Wright.
In court, prosecutors detail step by step what Jimmy Martin says happened next.
Billy Ray and Jimmy Martin go through a window and they're looking for Lorenzen, but they can't find him.
Turns out that Lorenzen wasn't even home at that moment.
But I was there laying on the couch. Had I woke up, or had Lorenzen been there, we'd both be dead.
The story Jimmy Martin tells investigators is that there's another man asleep on the couch, so they don't go through with the plan.
With that attempt foiled, prosecutors allege a new plot to kill Lorenzen was hatched. This time, they say, unfortunately, it worked.
The body of former pro basketball player Lorenzen Wright has apparently been found in Memphis. Sources say it appeared Wright had been shot several times.
Martin claims to investigators that a few days after Lorenzen's death, Shara and Turner confessed to him that they murdered Lorenzen. And that he helped them clean up the crime scene. Prosecutors said in court that Martin told cops that a metal detector was used to try to find a gun that was dropped during the murder there. Martin claims that he and Turner drove to Walnut, Mississippi, where he alleges Turner threw a gun in a lake. That lake is about 45 miles from Memphis, and in 2017, that's where the FBI conducted that search and found a gun at the bottom.
They were able to do forensics on this pistol that was recovered and determined that those shell casings came from that gun.
Even though police know that there were 2 weapons used in the shooting, this evidence alone is huge.
Developing right now, new information in the unsolved murder of Lorenzen Wright. Authorities now say a gun found over the summer may be the one used in the crime.
They're announcing, we found this gun. Why are they doing that? The reason they were doing that is they were telegraphing to the suspects to put them in a panic mode.
So law enforcement starts monitoring Shara and Billy Ray's cell phones and allege they learn incriminating information.
Law enforcement is able to record those calls.
Next thing you know, boom, there's this guy on TV. They're handcuffing.
46-year-old Billy Turner sits behind bars this morning, arrested at a Carterville gas station.
It was a standard arrest. There was no incidents to it. This person who, for the past 25 years, had not had any sort of troubles.
Real nice guy, always just laughing. No, he never showed aggression or anything like that.
I'm just like, who is Billy Ray Turner? Who is that?
I've never heard about Billy Ray Turner. The only thing that I knew, and I ended up putting 2 and 2 together, is that Lorenzen, he told me, you know, Cheryl's sleeping with everybody in Memphis. She even sleeping with her gardener, which was Billy Ray.
Continuing coverage for you now this midday about the suspect charged with killing former Memphis basketball player Lorenzen Wright. Billy Turner entered a not guilty plea on charges that he murdered Wright more than 7 years ago.
Emotions were extremely heavy in Billy Ray Turner's first appearance in a Shelby County courtroom.
And these hearings were televised, right?
Yes.
That's how high the interest was.
Yes. They would break into the regular day programming. It was like the big thing here.
New developments this midday in the 2010 murder case of Memphis basketball star Lorenzen Wright.
When I saw him, I knew instantly she had used him because that's not what she want. You know, he ain't had no money. She don't deal with no grass cutter.
Good morning, sir. You have a mother who searched for answers for all of these years and then finally associated a face with the person responsible for taking my son's life. And all the emotions just came out.
I jumped up and I asked him, how could you have murdered my son?
Little did Deborah know this mystery in Memphis wasn't even close to being solved. It's Billy Ray Turner's arraignment, the first time anyone has ever gone before a judge in connection with Lorenzen Wright's murder.
The victim's mother was emotional at the sight of Billy Turner in court.
Lorenzen Wright's mother stands up in the middle of the proceedings and yells,
how could you have murdered my son? That's what I did to know just how.
The atmosphere was one of just, wow. The air seemed to be sucked out of the room at that point.
Why? Who are you? We don't know you. It's like a stranger killing somebody.
That's right. Step to the mic. And I could see the pain in her, and I saw how she expressed that pain to him, and I knew it was real.
Ms. Wright, I understand your pain, and you're not helping your son. You're not helping the administration of justice by engaging in that sort of an outcome. If that happens again, I would have to bar you from the courtroom, and I don't want to do that to you, Mrs. Wright. Do you have any questions, ma'am?
No, I told him what I wanted to.
But please don't do that again.
So I shut my mouth for the rest of the court.
Now the question is about Shara, who, remember, was living in California, but was never far from Deborah's mind.
We have Thursday night Bible study, and I got so emotional. I said, God, please get Cheryl Robinson right. Please. That's what I said that Thursday night. Friday, she was locked up.
Cheryl Wright Robinson was taken into custody last night in Riverside, California.
The news feed hit that said that she had been arrested for the murder of Lorenzen Wright, and I said, hot damn, they got her.
Cheryl Wright Robinson has been indicted for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, criminal attempt first-degree murder, and first-degree murder for her ex-husband, Lorenzen Wright.
And I'm like, I just spent almost 3 years of my life with a killer.
They'd extradite her and bring her back. It was Memphis Police Department's one of their finest moments of finally putting this thing together.
Today in court, Shara Wright, right there behind me, pleaded not guilty to killing her husband.
Shara, basically, I think the reality of finally being caught really took the life out of her.
In an orange jumpsuit, Shara Wright shook her head as Judge Lee Coffey laid down the law.
Ms. Wright does appear to be an ongoing danger to Shelby County, Tennessee.
Judge Coffey gave Wright a $20 million bond.
She looked horrible.
This is a bizarre situation. Shara, who's been this sexy, beautiful person with a lot of money, a lot of boyfriends, she's now on her way to jail. This is not going to work for her. It's not uncommon for people to act in a bizarre way in jail, particularly the ones who've never been in jail.
She began to unravel.
According to Jail East staff, Wright berated workers, stripped off her clothes, and flooded a toilet.
She was acting very strangely. She had stripped naked and yelled out, "I'm going swimming."
Ms. Wright's behavior yesterday is absolutely shocking.
I don't think she's right mentally. I think that's why she said she was going swimming in this jail cell.
I think all the things that she was doing while in jail were all acts of her trying to plead insanity. I did not buy that at all.
There was a lot of speculation as to whether or not she was being theatrical or had legitimate claims of what she was going through.
In a stunning new development inside the Shelby County courtroom Wednesday morning, Shara Wright's attorney stepped down.
I'm not certain what happened between Shara and her former lawyers.
And a new legal team steps in.
Quite frankly, we found that Shara was easy to work with.
She had been prescribed some medication that altered her behavior. Once we were appointed on the case, her behavior had stabilized and she had no significant problems after that.
I'm excited. I think we can do well. A case like this does not come along every day. and we were honored to defend Shara.
The objective is to give us the fairest opportunity to present our defense in the case.
Meanwhile, Billy Ray Turner is lawyered up too. He brings in one of Memphis's most high-profile attorneys.
John Keith Perry is kind of a rising star criminal defense lawyer. This is one of his, big cases.
There's a substantial amount of investigating that needs to continue. I was contacted by the family of Mr. Turner, and I've been on this case now since the end of 2017. We've read and listened to, I think, just about all of the discovery. Now you compile notes, lay out your outlines, see the points of attack. I've never had a reason to regret representing Billy Ray Turner.
According to his attorney, Billy Ray Turner has constantly said he had no involvement in the murder of Lorenzen Wright. He stands by that then, and he stands by that now.
We think that if given a fair slate, Mr. Turner will walk out with me. I absolutely think that he did not do it.
Perry has several questions about the alleged case against Billy Ray Turner, starting with his connection to Shara.
Some of the things that I've heard through the community about this super romance, and that he would have been willing to jump bridges and over rivers or whatever. I haven't seen that.
And more importantly, Perry says, consider the source. He says the prosecution's case starts with Jimmy Martin's story. And his criminal history, according to Perry, makes him not credible.
Could he be the one that did it? Absolutely. With the statement that he gave, how he gave that statement, and the fact that he is a convicted murderer, yes, there's an absolutely a chance that he could have committed the act himself. Credibility-wise, he would be low on the totem pole, I think.
Maybe he's just trying to minimize his involvement in all this. He's flipped, he's turned a deal.
So far, there is no proof that Jimmy Martin received any benefit from cooperating in the Lorenzen Wright case. But we do know he's never been charged in connection with Wright's murder. Neither Martin nor prosecutors would talk with us. But now the stage was set for a climactic trial in the Lorenzen Wright murder. Did you expect these cases to lead to conviction? And did you expect that to happen fairly quickly?
Once the gun was found, I did.
No case is a slam dunk. No murder case is a slam dunk.
However, no one was prepared for what would actually happen next.
I walk to the assignment desk, and she hangs up the phone and frantically says, I just got a tip. Go down to the courthouse.
A significant development in the Lorenzen Wright murder case.
A gun found over the summer may be the one used in the crime.
Shara Wright Robinson was taken into custody.
Well, the buildup was huge. We were expecting probably a weeks to months long trial.
The judge is expected to rule this spring on a host of pretrial motions from Shara Wright's and Billy Turner's legal teams.
They were going to be tried together as co-defendants. That was my understanding.
If Shara and Billy Turner were tried together, our defense could be consistent.
I think that the evidence in the case that the state has, we're anxious to get before 12 jurors and see what they think.
Anytime you have multiple suspects, people are going to start throwing each other under the bus. And inevitably, it basically boils down to who can cut the deal first.
In the several months that Billy Ray Turner and Shara Wright appeared together as defendants, there was always a lingering question. Which of them could potentially plead first?
I thought Billy was going to use his head. I thought he was going to take the plea first.
It became evident to Junie and me that the state wanted to work out a deal with Billy Turner.
A surprise twist tonight in the Lorenzen Wright murder case.
Shara's lawyers say they realized that troubling sign in June of 2019 when Billy Ray was in court for another matter.
He's never said that he had a firearm related to killing anyone at all.
Billy Ray's between a rock and a hard place. He's got a gun charge unrelated to the Wright murder and faces up to 20 years behind bars if he's found guilty. He decides he's got only one choice: plead guilty to the gun charge.
Now, is that what you want to do, sir? Yes. Has anyone threatened you, promised you anything, put any force any pressure on you in order to get you to give up these rights and plead guilty, sir?
Billy's convicted felon in possession of a handgun trial was scheduled in June of 2019, but on trial date, he pled open to the court.
Upon your plea of guilty to indictment 1801702, a Class B felon of being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm, it is the judgment of this court, Mr. Turner, that you are guilty.
He pled open to the court. He doesn't know definitively what sentence he's going to get.
Shara's lawyers are seeing this play out, and they're really worried about it. Here's why. It's possible the judge could take pity on Billy Ray and reduce his sentence if he cooperates with authorities and testifies against Shara Wright.
His potential time was completely left up to the judge.
Thank you, sir. Step down from the witness, Ms. Turner.
That was highly unusual and to us indicated that he would be cooperating.
Shara's lawyers are not taking any chances. Her lawyers go to visit her in jail, and what they tell her would shock everyone. They say she needs to consider a plea deal.
We told her that if Billy testifies against you, it's going to be disastrous.
Ms. Shara Wright to the courtroom, please.
One morning, out of the blue, we get a frantic phone call into our newsroom, a tip from the courthouse. Shara Wright plans to plead guilty.
In a stunning twist and unscheduled appearance this morning, Shara Wright agreed to a plea deal in the murder case of her ex-husband, Memphis basketball star Lorenzen Wright.
She realized that I'm not willing to roll the dice. I'm not willing to take a gamble on this, and she cut the deal.
No one had any foresight or knowledge that they were going to do that.
You raise your right hand, please, ma'am. Do you solemnly swear or affirm?
Everybody was sitting on the edge of their chairs.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. They wanted to see what was Shara's role in this.
We know Shara Wright is there to plead guilty, but we don't know entirely what she's pleading guilty to.
Ms. Wright, the agreement that you have to say is that you would plead guilty to the included charge in count 1 to facilitation of first-degree murder.
In the deal, the 48-year-old pleaded guilty to 2 counts, facilitation of first-degree murder and facilitation of attempted first-degree murder.
Facilitating. Yes, sir. Facilitating the murder. I've never heard of that charge.
In the plea deal, Shara Wright pleads guilty to the lesser crimes of plotting the murder, but not the actual first-degree murder charge.
You are asking this court to find you guilty without a trial and set this punishment which has been recommended on your case. Now, is that what you want to do, Ms. Wright?
That is correct. She admitted that she had facilitated Lorenzen's murder.
But she doesn't name Turner or any accomplices in pleading guilty. When you heard that Shara was entering a plea, what did you think?
She's trying to outsmart him. I think she just decided to bite the bullet, so to speak, on the murder and to figure a way to get the less amount of time that she could.
Prosecutors would not comment to 2020 about the case.
She knows she was finna go down, way down. She wasn't gonna get no few years. She gonna get some lifetime.
Ms. Wright, it is the judgment of this court that you are guilty. This court sets your punishment at 30 years confinement in the Tennessee Department of Corrections.
She received a 30-year sentence, of which she'll serve 30% before release eligibility.
I think our prosecutors failed us, those of us that loved him. I think she played him.
My reaction was, I was sick in the stomach. I'm like, are you kidding me? She may only do 9 years. Lorenzen, he lost the rest of his life, and she may only have to do 9 years. I felt really bad, felt really sick. I said, that's not fair.
It's not about fairness.
Ms. Wright, Ms. Step down for witness stand. What you do like now? Thank you, ma'am.
I think it's a concept the public wants to believe in. When the state and the defense comes to a negotiated plea agreement, then generally speaking, the court will approve it.
If the sentence surprised a lot of people in court, though, what came next was even more shocking.
Ms. Marion, when you were first in court, you asked the things that you wanted to say. Yes.
A mother is about to confront the woman who arranged her son's murder. After all these years, what will Deborah have to say?
Shira Wright walked into the Shelby County courtroom this morning. She agreed to a plea deal in the murder case of her ex-husband, Memphis basketball star Lorenzen Wright.
Even after Shira pleads guilty to facilitating their father's murder, her children are said to be standing behind her.
I know the kids were, at some time, maybe still are in denial of Mama's involvement, and you can understand that.
The children support Shira because they love her.
The children were very aware of the complicated dynamic between Shira and Lorenzen. And so they came into this situation with all the history of what they experienced. So they had unique perspectives on what had occurred between them.
What do you think about the fact that they're standing with and supporting their mother?
Well, that's their mom. It's probably hard to see her as she truly is.
I hadn't seen him. I'm just going to love him from afar.
You can imagine a mother not just losing her son, but in the manner that it happened, and all these years suspecting it was Shira, and it turns out that, yeah.
After she agreed to the deal, Lorenzen Wright's mother, Deborah Marion, spoke directly to her former daughter-in-law.
Marion, when you were first in court, you had some things that you wanted to say.
Yes.
Judge Coffey gave Deborah the opportunity to address Shira.
I will allow you to vocalize or verbalize anything that you want right now, Ms. Marion, because you have that right under our Constitution now.
I couldn't wait to hear what she was going to say.
The room was quiet, it was tense, and it was locked in as Lorenzen Wright's mother looked directly in the eye of Shira Wright.
I was thinking about it the whole while as it was going on, what I was going to say. But once I got up to that mic, my train of thought just changed. I focused on my grandkids.
But Sharon, I want to thank you for giving me my grandchildren. That's what I want to thank you for.
Instead of anger and outrage, she looks at Shira Wright and gives more of a sense of compassion and family and love.
But I want you to unlock them so I can visit them, so they can see their grandma. Because Sophia keep calling, she wants to come make chicken and dumplings. She wants to come.
And I didn't expect her to bring up the kids, but I was so glad that she did.
But I want you to call them. No, it's okay to talk to your grandma. Grandma still loves you. That's all I want, my grandkids. I just hate what happened to my child. But he left nice looking kids here for his grandma. But they want to see me like I want to see them. I'm ready for them to come back to home with their family. That's I miss them.
Well, I was trying to tell her to get the loop off of my grandkids so they can call me like they used to do. But, I know she got them reeled in.
Most of the children were adults. Shira Wright was not standing in the way of the children having a relationship with Deborah Marion.
To see her basically plead to Shira to let the kids be with her, it touched my heart.
Deborah, she played it well, because no matter what you say in court to that woman, it's not going to bring your son back.
Am I able to respond to her?
What a moment that is. It appears that Shira is about to say something to Deborah, and everybody is on the edge of their seat.
Mr. Gaynor, you want your client to say anything at this point, sir?
Shira did want to respond. I advised her not to, because at that point, what difference does it make?
No, Miss Wright has nothing to say at this time.
Well, she had nothing to say to me. She didn't even say, I'm sorry. You could see it on her face. She wasn't sorry.
I know what has happened to you and your family, your son, can never be undone by anything that he courts do. But I hope it brings you some closure. I hope it allows your family to continue to deal. Again, thank you for your patience, and we'll deal with Mr. Turner's case in September now. Thank you all for being in court today.
With no trial for Shira, the city of Memphis still has a lot of unanswered questions. Next up is Billy Ray Turner's trial. This is the last chance to get some answers.
Problematic may be an understatement, but that's how Shelby County doctors are describing the ongoing challenges in fighting the current surge of COVID-19 numbers.
The trial of Billy Ray Turner is scheduled for this fall, but with everything going on in the world with COVID-19, it's unlikely that that will happen.
I absolutely plan to fight like hell for my client in that courtroom. I ask the public one thing, that if you have your preconceived notions, pay attention to it as the case is presented in the courtroom, then stand in judgment of it.
I hope that the truth comes out, and I hope that he does time for the role that he took in Lorenz's murder.
I am not really worried about what happened to Billy Ray in his upcoming trial. Lorenzen's dead because of sheriff.
At this point, it's unclear if Cher will ever say what happened, leaving everyone else to just simply speculate. And even I still have questions. What actually happened that night out by the Callis Cutoff Road? How did Lorenzen end up out there that night? Was there a second gunman? And who shot him? And the most perplexing question, why?
I would say the motive is that he was worth more dead than he was alive.
Ultimately, only she knows why she did it. Money, love, envy, it really is a tragic story.
Meanwhile, the people involved in the story are finding out that even 10 years later, there's no shortage of public interest in Lorenzen Wright's murder.
I got a documentary coming out. It's called A Million Reasons. You get to hear her talk for herself. You get to see a real inside look on our life. Well, you get to see what did she spend all that money on, in detail. I don't have a monster to sell you. I'll tell you about Cheryl Wright, and you make your own decision. You'll be able to see it for yourself.
When you are the mother of 6 kids and you're married to their father and you would see him dead, that's just evil, that's wicked.
His kids, they suffered because not only was their father taken, but their mother was taken too. There are no winners in this case.
And I know that he's looking down on them with that huge smile that he has. And he wants the best for them, and he would love for them to be a part of his mother and father's life.
Not only was he physically murdered, but then his character was assassinated. I want people to know who Lorenzen Wright was, what type of human being he was. The lies that were told earlier about drugs, too many people bought into those lies. And so we're trying our best right now to cleanse the name of Lorenzen.
The drugs, the physical abuse, his friends say none of those things are true. And he deserves to be remembered as the good family man they knew, a man they will never forget.
With Lorenzen, I be talking to his picture. Sometimes his picture could look at me a certain way, acting like it's really him. And now Ellen just stop. Just talk to him. He was a mommy boy. Simple as that. He would still be mama's boy if he was here now. Because he's still my firstborn.
You're as cold as ice.
The last thing they would expect is to find a suitcase with a human body in it.
There was no doubt of what it was. It was a set of human legs. Oh my gracious.
The big question is, how the hell did he get there?
They were crazy in love at first, but it quickly became tumultuous. There were infidelities, they'd fight. I think they liked the drama.
You're as cold as ice.
The person who did that would look like a monster, but sometimes killers look just like Melanie McGuire.
Do you still insist that you're innocent?
Absolutely.
Now, the all-new Jailhouse interview.
Who do you think killed your husband?
New details, stunning audio recordings.
Is there anything else you're not telling me?
Like what? Like I killed my husband.
Did you?
No. But thanks for asking.
The secret in the suitcase.
It turns out it isn't the end of this story.
The new 2020 True Crime Event Special, next Friday at 9/8 Central on ABC.
Do you think you know me?
What you want, baby, I got it.
I
been down this road before. I want respect.
A selfless and caring mother of 3.
She always thought about other people. She was just a bright light shining.
Viciously murdered in her own home.
Her bedroom was incredibly blood-soaked, unlike I'd ever seen before. There was anger involved in this crime.
I remember just screaming.
Investigators are sent down a rabbit hole of suspects.
She didn't like him. She didn't trust him.
It raised a red flag that there might be some sort of affair going on.
She was jealous of her life, of what she had.
There was clearly bad blood between them.
Every lead appears to turn into a dead end.
It just stalled.
That was disheartening.
Until a surprising witness comes forward.
It was unbelievable.
It was the break we were looking for.
Exposing a killer no one saw coming.
I was pretty shocked.
I just remember being sick to my stomach.
Cortland Township lies in the heart of Michigan.
It's fairly rural, nice, pleasant, kind of a good hometown feel. It's one of those areas that everybody gets along, and when you're driving by their house, they're waving at you, and it's just peaceful and quiet.
This quaint community is stunned on Saturday, August 5th, 2006, when the Kent County Sheriff's Office receives a 911 call.
Emergency.
My daughter, we just found her in bed, and she's got a lash on her arm, and she's all bloody.
Just before 5 o'clock, we received a call of a potential suicide at the Pagel residence.
Officers are immediately dispatched to the home of 41-year-old Renee Pagel.
We were met by Renee's stepmother and her father. They were both just in shock. Renee's father indicated that his daughter was in her bedroom. When I first walked into the bedroom, I observed Renee laying on the bed. I could just remember seeing all the blood. The blood-soaked sheets, her shirt, there's blood on her face. It was obvious that Renee Pagel was deceased, and it wasn't a suicide. This was a homicide.
Officers secure the scene as homicide detectives arrive to investigate.
Her bedroom was incredibly blood-soaked, unlike I'd ever seen before. The bed was covered with blood. There was blood spatter on the walls, on the ceiling.
She was stabbed multiple times. I was pretty shocked by the amount of wounds that she had. When I looked at her hand, I saw a large laceration almost in the middle of her hand to be, in my opinion, a defensive wound. Renee was in the fight for her life. Unfortunately, she had lost.
For detectives, the viciousness of the attack is a clue itself.
It appears to us it's a crime of passion. Somebody has something against this victim so much so that they want to brutalize this person as much as they possibly could.
This was personal.
Somebody went into that residence to murder Renee.
Who in Renee's life would want to attack her and could be capable of such violence? Born in 1965, Renee's spirit was always full of joy.
Renee was the most generous person I have ever known. She loved life. She was always smiling.
Renee Pagel devoted her life to helping others.
She was a nurse practitioner. She had done medical mission trips around the world, and then she also worked at a homeless clinic here in town. She always thought about other people.
Renee's greatest joy was being a mother of 3.
She loved her kids so much. She was a great mom.
Recently separated from Michael, her husband of 10 years, Renee shared custody of her children while always remaining a devoted mother.
The last couple years, because she wanted to be home with her kids and wanted to have some more normal hours, she chose to teach at a technical center.
Even as a teacher, Renee found new ways to help people.
One of her students had come into class one day and was really down, and Renee said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "Well, my dad is dying. He needs a kidney." And so Renee agreed to give her kidney to this man who she had never met. She was just so selfless. And it manifested itself in so many ways.
Renee had undergone the kidney transplant surgery just 5 days before her stunning death.
So she was already in a weakened state when she was attacked.
Could the killer have timed the attack, knowing that Renee would be recuperating? Detectives look closer at her injuries, hoping they'll reveal telling details about the murder weapon.
It seemed to be a very strong and well-made knife, and large. Just the amount of damage it did to the victim's body, it was at least an inch and a half blade that was wide.
There's no sign of the knife, but forensic technicians searched the bedroom for other evidence.
There was large amounts of blood that our scientific support unit had to collect, and they collected trace evidence like hairs and fibers for testing.
Detectives continue to search the rest of the home.
What struck me about this case that was kind of odd, there was no other areas in the house that were disturbed, that were bloody or anything tracked to the home. It seemed to be very honed in on just her bedroom.
It really kind of puzzled us as investigators.
It was the most bizarre scene I've ever been on.
This person, in my opinion, had to know that they had to cover their tracks, and I think it was planned, and they thought this out ahead of time.
As forensics continue their work, detectives speak with Renee's parents.
Her father, obviously, he was extremely upset. What he had just found out, his daughter brutally murdered.
Detectives ask her father to help them put together a picture of Renee's last known movements.
He last saw her the night before, around 4 or 5 in the evening, when he was picking up the children and bringing them to their father's house, who lived approximately 15 to 20 minutes away from Renee.
With Renee's children safe with their father at the time of the murder, she was home alone.
He told us he spoke with her on the phone around 8 or 9 in the evening, just checked in on her because obviously he had a lot of concern of her health.
Based on the state of the body, detectives believe Renee was murdered sometime between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. They ask her parents who Renee might have seen last.
Her father talked to me about a tenant, Mike Decker, who was an acquaintance of Renee that has been living on the property for approximately 1.5 years, 2 years. Also, he did speak about a contentious divorce with her husband, Michael, that she was going through. Mike wanted full custody. Mike wanted the home. Mike wanted to not work and have Renee work and be the provider. So that obviously piqued my interest.
Could either of these men have possibly wanted Renee dead? Detectives know they have to hit the ground running right away.
We have to find out who all these people are and go and start to question them to try to find out where they were on the night of the murder.
Coming up, investigators uncover an ominous obsession.
There was a lot of writings about his hatred for Renee.
Alarming secrets.
The ceiling had a hidden compartment.
Renee told me how betrayed she felt.
She was extremely upset. She was very hurt by this.
And the truth blindsides everyone.
We've never had a break like this.
It was, you're not going to believe this. Just disbelief.
I'm still reeling from that one.
Detectives in a small Michigan town are investigating the vicious murder of 41-year-old mother of three, Renee Pagel. Police are looking into two possible suspects, her tenant and her estranged husband. They first turn their attention to Renee's ex, Michael Pagel.
In the beginning, they seemed like your average all-American couple.
She did tell me that she did love him. She wanted marriage in a family, and he was the opportunity.
She looked at him, I think the words were the knight in shining armor. And speaking to friends of the family, they described Michael as a fantastic dad, that he was always about his children. Nobody said anything bad about him.
Married life seemed like a dream come true until cracks started to appear.
When I interviewed numerous people, I was told that Mike didn't want a full-time job. Mike wanted to be at home with the kids and let Renee do everything and support him. They were just having a lot of issues back and forth with one another. In early 2005, Mike abruptly surprised Renee with divorce papers.
She was very shocked and just sickened to the core.
There had been some turmoil in the past between them, but in her mind, things were actually getting better. They were kind of turning around, so she was blindsided by it.
She said to me, he expected, I mean expected, the house, the kids, and $2,000 a month.
In June 2006, just 7 weeks before she was murdered, Renee and Michael had their day in divorce court.
When the judge ruled in her favor and said that she got the kids, she got the house, and he was going to have to get a better paying job, something flipped in him.
Was Michael so angered by the ruling that he killed Renee in a furious rage?
There were a lot of things that put him at the top of our list as a potential suspect that had killed Renee.
Detectives go to question Michael.
When we arrived at Mike's house, he was not there. His mother said that he should be back shortly. And I said, just want to get an idea of what were you guys doing last night? And she said, well, Mike had the kids. They were having a fortnight in the living room where Mike had set up some pillows and some blankets. Then she stated about 8 in the morning, she and Michael had a brief conversation, and then they went about their day. So basically, she was giving him an alibi that he was home all night with the kids.
As police finish the interview with his mother, Michael arrives.
I explained to him that something had happened to Renee, and we would like to speak to you about this. When Michael was told that she had passed away, there was no reaction out of him. And immediately, without me even going any further, Michael reached into his wallet and gave me an attorney card and said, yeah, I've been told not to talk to the police. Here's my attorney. So I thought that was extremely odd that Michael didn't want to dig further into what happened to Renee.
After consulting with his divorce attorney, he told investigators he wouldn't answer any questions.
Michael's reticence to cooperate is a red flag. And on August 6th, the day after Renee's murder, police arrive at his home with a search warrant.
We're looking for any type of knife that may have been used during the murder. We took a lot of knives from the house, but we found no knives that matched the length and the size and the different characteristics of the knife that was used.
Police also collect hair samples and fingerprints from Michael.
We wanted to get photos of his body to make sure that there was no cuts or anything on him. We wanted to look at clothing to see if there was any blood trace evidence anywhere.
All the forensic evidence that we collected, we never found anything that was useful in our investigation.
All the knives in his home were examined, and there was nothing to link them to this crime.
We had no murder weapon. We had no real evidence. There was nothing. It was clean.
So when we left that search warrant, I would say we really came out empty-handed. We didn't have anything to tie this murder to Mike Pagel.
Despite his potential motive, Michael Pagel drops off detectives' list of suspects, while news of Renee's violent death quickly spreads across town.
Her friend called me and said, "Chris, Renee's dead." It was surreal. I remember curling up in a fetal position and just screaming. I screamed. I was angry.
As her friends and loved ones struggle with her death, Renee's autopsy report comes in.
Cause of death was blunt force trauma, homicide. It was a large, heavy-duty knife that was used on her.
The autopsy revealed upwards of 50 stab wounds. There were numerous lacerations to the hands and the feet, suggesting defensive wounds.
She was stabbed over 50 times. I'm still reeling from that one. It was so brutal.
Detectives continue their investigation and now focus their attention on Renee's tenant, Mike Decker.
She had this barn that had an upstairs apartment, and he was a renter.
The barn was about 75 yards away from the main home. He could have been involved, he could have been a witness, he could have overheard something. One of her friends believed that the week of her surgery, Renee was going to have pizza with Mike Decker, and that she felt that there was some type of maybe a relationship going on. So that sparked our interest. I mean, if he's having a relationship with Renee, did something happen to cause him to get upset and potentially do this horrific crime? We had to find him immediately.
2 days into the investigation of Renee Pagel's murder, detectives have a possible suspect. Her tenant, Mike Decker, who's rumored to be romantically involved with Renee. Detectives interview Mike at his apartment on Renee's property.
At first, I kind of thought loner, 30-year-old gentleman, unemployed, living above a barn. I thought that was kind of odd. When we were speaking to Mr. Decker, we asked him if he's having a relationship with Renee, romantic or whatnot.
Mike said that the relationship is more of a friendship or a kindness thing, no romantic involvement.
He denied having any dinner with Renee over the past week. He stated that it was actually a month or two before he suggested that they go out for pizza just as friends, but Renee had turned that down because she was busy.
Police ask Mike Decker where he was on the night of the murder.
He stated that he went into a local city to eat by himself, drove back probably between 8 or 9. When he arrived at home, he watches a little bit of TV and then goes to bed between 1 and 2 in the morning.
Detectives ask him if he heard anything that night, especially after what they had found at the crime scene.
We did locate a tire track and a footwear impression in Renee's driveway.
He denied hearing anything from Renee's house.
Mike tells police he didn't notice anything unusual the next morning either.
He woke up in the morning around 9 or 10 and then went to meet with his family to go see a bike race. Part of the problem with Mike Decker's alibi, even though he was cooperative through this process, he was on the property when this murder happened.
With no one to corroborate his alibi, police get a warrant to search Mike's apartment.
We seized his pipe from his sink because we wanted to see if there was any blood or trace evidence in there, and then we found a couple of large knives.
The evidence is rushed to the crime lab for analysis.
The knives and the pipe forensically did not show anything. There were no signs of blood.
We found no knives that matched the type of knife that was used.
But still, Mike cannot be ruled out. A week after the homicide, detectives interview him again, this time at the sheriff's office.
He showed no issues of concern. of us looking at him as a potential suspect, from gathering any type of physical evidence from him. We even offered him a polygraph. And Mr. Decker submitted to that also and passed without any deceit.
With nothing tying Mike Decker to the crime, investigators let him go. Searching for any further clues about Renee, detectives reach out to her parents once again, and in turn, get a lead on a new suspect, Renee's own sister, Michelle.
Renee's father stated that the relationship between Renee and Michelle was strained. He mentioned that Michelle was jealous of Renee's life, of what she had.
She wanted a successful career, a family, a home, all of those things.
Renee and Michelle's problems went beyond sibling rivalry.
During the divorce, Renee's attorney was able to subpoena the phone records of Michael Pagel, so he turned those over to Renee.
When she examined phone records, she learned that Mike and Michelle were talking frequently.
So she was extremely upset. She was very hurt by this.
There was such significant communication between Mike Pagel and the sister Michelle that it raised a red flag to us right away that there might be some sort of affair going on.
Renee told me how betrayed she felt by her sister. She really struggled with that.
During the interviews with numerous people, it was mentioned that Michelle potentially was having a relationship with Michael. Once I learned that, it's obviously somebody we wanted to look at.
Michelle is brought in for an interview. And though she says that she is saddened by her sister's death, her answers raise eyebrows with investigators.
She didn't speak very highly of Renee. She was not happy at all the way that Renee was handling the divorce.
Michelle clearly took Mike's side in it and kind of put her sister in the bad light. She felt that Mike was a good father, and it was her sister that was really trying to take advantage of him.
We did ask her if she was in a relationship or had a relationship with Michael, and she completely denied it.
Detectives asked Michelle where she was the night of the murder.
She said she was working into the evening, and that evening she was home with her roommate. Basically, she was stating that she was home the evening of the murder.
Michelle did take a polygraph, and she was found to be truthful and did not appear to have any involvement in the homicide.
With Michelle all but ruled out, investigators discovered that she isn't the only family member Renee had issues with.
When I spoke with Renee's parents, it was mentioned that Michael, her soon-to-be ex-husband, had a brother. The brother was Charles Pagel. They called him Bo. And they said that he was very strange, very odd.
He and Renee did not get along. Renee didn't like him. She didn't trust him.
When detectives dig deeper, they uncover something troubling.
We learned from a close friend of Renee that he had been married numerous times, and she believed that maybe Bo had murdered his last wife.
Was Bo a killer? And had he now killed again?
That obviously raised some red flags for us as investigators, and that's somebody we wanted to speak with very quickly.
Detectives investigating the vicious stabbing of Renee Pagel are looking at her estranged husband's brother, Bo Pagel.
Bo was married 3 times in the past, and one of his ex-wives died under suspicious circumstances.
One of Renee's friends gives a statement to police, claiming that she believed Bo may have killed his ex-wife.
Obviously, what really sent us his way was the potential murder of his last wife, so that had our attention.
Detectives must determine if Bo could actually be a killer. They look deeper into his background.
Bo was a loner, lived at home with his mom. We learned that he was on-the-road trucker, and he traveled all over the country. He would be gone days at a time.
Investigators also look closer at Bo and Renee's fractured relationship.
There was clearly bad blood between him and Renee, dating back years, going back to the wedding.
We found out that Bo refused to be in the wedding. He was going to be the best man. He did not like her, thought she was not good for Mike, and he didn't approve of it whatsoever. He was outspoken to Michael about even marrying Renee.
And I think the relationship between Bo and Mike was really more of an estranged relationship for the 10 years that Mike and Renee were married.
But after Renee and Michael's separation, everything changed.
I do know that once Mike filed for divorce, he and Bo rekindled that relationship and became pretty close.
Bo was, I believe, happy that Renee was now out of the picture and he could have his brother back.
Could Bo have wanted Renee permanently out of Michael's life? Detectives bring him in for questioning.
So we interviewed Bo, and he denied any knowledge of the murder, denied any involvement.
Bo had said that through the week he was on the road trucking. He got home Thursday night.
Bo's alibi was that he was essentially across the state. He had driven a route the day of the homicide. He had gotten back around 6 o'clock and had gone out with some friends for dinner.
And then afterwards, he stated he went home, spoke to his daughter, and then went to bed.
And then the next morning got up and went canoeing with his daughter.
We contacted his work. We spoke to the family that he actually had dinner with that Friday evening to account for they were with him, what restaurant, until what time.
It pretty much matched up.
Though most of his story checks out, no one can confirm that Bo was at home at the time of Renee's murder. Needing more information, detectives reach out to Bo's daughter.
We confirmed with her that they went on the canoe trip in the morning.
Bo's daughter also puts to rest any suspicion that Bo was responsible for her mother's death.
She gave us details about her mother that we didn't know. She was a diabetic, she had some blood sugar problems, and she really didn't care for going to the doctor. So she didn't seek the medical help that she needed, and that ultimately is what resulted in her death.
She did not suspect Bo of doing anything.
Though Bo's alibi isn't ironclad, there is nothing concrete to link him to Renee's murder, and he is released. It's been 6 weeks since the homicide, and the investigation has ground to a halt.
The reason that we were stuck is because there was no physical evidence that would help tie any one person to this crime. We looked at every person. The estranged husband, his brother, Bo, Renee's sister, and Renee's tenant. And there was nothing to link them to this crime.
Police continue investigating for many months. But with no fresh leads, the case goes cold.
It just stalled. There was a point where I felt that we would never have a conclusion in this case.
It was just sad that we couldn't bring closure to Renee and to her family.
As the months went by, I was just like, what is going on?
Once the months turns into years, that was disheartening.
For 13 years, there are no new developments in the case. But through it all, Renee's best friend never gives up hope.
We created a website in the year 2007, and it was a really therapeutic way for people to come and grieve and share stories. And that website was very effective in getting the word out about Renee's murder, doing whatever it took to find justice for Renee.
In a stunning turn of events, on November 18th, 2019, Chris Crandall receives a surprising message on social media.
Mike's brother, Bo, sent me a friend request. And of course, I was very startled. And it was just after that I got a message from Bo. All of a sudden, after all these years, Bo wanted to talk.
13 years after Renee Pagel is viciously stabbed to death, Her best friend receives a message from Renee's brother-in-law, Bo Pagel, wanting to talk.
And of course, I called the police and let them know that Bo had contacted me.
So we arranged to have the conversation between Chris and Bo recorded.
As a former suspect in Renee's murder, was Bo about to confess?
He called me clearly wanting to let it be known that Mike was losing it. Bo was afraid that he would be Mike's next victim. And I said to Bo, who do you think Mike's first victim was? And he danced around that and wouldn't answer it.
And Bo said, I believe Mike will kill me.
And it was then that I was entertaining the idea that Mike was not so innocent.
I listened to that conversation and was very concerned. Bo believes Mike's capable of killing somebody. We felt this was a big break. We now knew that Bo may have information about whether or not Mike did commit murder.
On February 3rd, 2020, 2 months after his conversation with Chris Crandall, police formally interview Bo.
I just asked him to tell us what he knew about anybody being involved in Renee's murder, and he quickly told us that Mike Pagel was responsible for Renee's murder.
It's a stunning revelation.
It was the break we were looking for. It was the big piece of information that we needed.
Knowing this is their chance to finally solve Renee's murder, police get an official statement from Bo.
Bo laid out the story for us. Back in 2011, Bo and Mike decided to go out. Mike grabbed a six-pack of beer, and they just drove around and talked as brothers. And they stopped over the top of one bridge over a small river, and in the midst of that conversation, Mike produced a bag, and inside the bag was a knife that was wrapped in a cloth, and Mike made the comment to Bo of, "This is how I finalized my divorce," which was a complete shock to Bo. And it immediately made Bo angry. He said, "I believed you for all these years, we've supported you, and come to find out you're the one responsible. I can't believe you would have done that." And I think this made Mike angry. He expected Bo to congratulate him. So the way Bo described it was out of frustration. Mike took the knife and threw it into the river. Bo described it as about a 12-inch long, bigger knife, and it appeared to be a very strong, sturdy knife.
Investigators get Bo to show them exactly where Michael had thrown the knife.
There was quite a bit of old metal, various pieces of cars and other things inside the river, and in my opinion, that wasn't a safe diving environment. We had to find another means to search the bottom of the river.
Police wonder if they will be able to recover a knife that has been in the water for 9 years. Then, one of the detectives comes up with an idea.
It's called a rare earth magnet. The magnet is something that I've had at home, and it just came to mind as an option for a way to search the watery area and to grab whatever metal pieces were on the bottom of the river.
It was tremendously impressive for him to come up with his own homemade magnet device. And, you know, he concocted his own fishing line and pulling it through the stream, which is remarkable.
Police spend 3 days painstakingly dragging the riverbed with no success.
So we were on our last few passes of the river, and I began pulling toward my side, and then it was, "You're not gonna believe this," just disbelief. The knife was stuck to the magnet, and it was exactly as Bo described.
It was late in the day, I want to say 3 or 4 o'clock, and got the phone call. He got the knife. I'm like, "No, are you kidding me? He got the knife? No."
And this is the magnet and the knife exactly as we found it.
It was awesome. It was everything you could hope for when you're investigating a case, to get that piece of evidence that you know you need, that you really weren't sure if it was going to be there, but there it is.
Police now need to confirm if the knife found matches the knife used in Renee Pagel's murder.
We brought it down to the medical examiner's office. They viewed it and instantly said, absolutely, it's consistent with the injuries that are on Renee's body. We were very confident we had the murder weapon.
Unbelievable. We've never had a break like this. We got the needle in the haystack by finding the knife, and now we had a murder weapon that backed up what a witness said.
It allowed us to validate Bo's statement that that knife was thrown in that water by Mike Pagel.
On February 6th, 2020, 13 years after Renee's death, Michael Pagel is officially charged with her murder.
So this case was going to hinge a lot on the testimony of Bo, but it's still circumstantial evidence. And is the jury going to believe him or not?
In the midst of that, the defense attorneys asked if we would consider a plea offer. When someone asks for a plea, it usually means that they're willing to tell the truth. And in this case, that was one of the conditions, is we wanted to hear the truth as part of the plea agreement.
The prosecution agrees to a plea deal of second-degree murder and a minimum of 25 years in prison.
We wanted to get a term of years to make sure he was old enough that he would never harm anyone again.
On May 20th, 2020, 55-year-old Michael Pagel agrees to plead guilty to second-degree murder, avoiding a trial by jury. But at his plea hearing, Michael suddenly turns the case on its head.
It was unbelievable. And I just remember being sick to my stomach.
After 13 years of investigating the heinous murder of Renee Pagel, her estranged husband is finally being charged for the brutal crime. But at his plea hearing, Michael makes an admission that takes everyone by surprise.
I hired my brother, Charles Pagel, to kill Renee Pagel. Charles Pagel murdered Renee Pagel.
We were all absolutely shocked when he said that his brother did this.
Mike maintained the fact that Bo was the one responsible. He admitted that he had orchestrated it and that he had planned it, but insisted that Bo was the one that actually did the stabbing, which was a complete shock to us. We had investigated and we found no evidence, nothing to directly tie Bo Pagel to this murder.
Had Bo been hiding his involvement all along? While detectives take another look at him, they also dig for more evidence against Michael. And after several searches of his home, they make a surprising discovery.
At Mike's house, we found the ceiling had a hidden compartment. When we took this down, we found 3 hard drives in this hidden compartment.
Investigators spend time decoding the contents of Michael's hard drives, and what they find is chilling.
In those hard drives, there was journaling.
I would call it strange. It appeared to be written by almost 2 different personalities, one that would talk back and forth to the other.
He talked about planning to divorce, how much he hated her.
There was a lot of writings about his dislike and his hatred for Renee.
Then, weeks later, police tracked down a crucial witness.
We uncovered a friend who had said that he had gifted a knife to Michael that was substantially similar to the one that was actually found.
And he admitted that he gave it to Mike as a gift, and it was delivered directly to Mike Pagel. So that helped us put the knife in Mike's hands.
So now you have a knife that was found in the river that now a friend is saying had given to Michael and not to Bo.
While the evidence is circumstantial, police believe it strengthens their case even further against Michael.
There was nothing that could back up Michael's story in terms of physical evidence, any other witnesses, anything else other than his word about it. Whereas Bo at least had stuff to back it up. His alibi backed up, and the physical evidence that he provided backed it up. So there's just absolutely nothing that shows that Bo did this. This was Michael Pagel. This was all him that committed this murder that night.
Investigators conclude what likely happened on the night of Renee's murder.
When the children were sleeping, he snuck out of his house and he went over to Renee's.
It's pretty well known that she donated a kidney.
Obviously, she wasn't strong at this point.
She was asleep in bed, and he walked in with that knife and brutally stabbed her.
I believe that Mike no doubt planned this out.
There's no way you leave a crime scene that clean and it's not carefully planned. How he absolutely didn't leave a blood drop, a fingerprint, a mark, any physical evidence.
Bo tells us about Mike commenting that he had worn coveralls and galoshes. So he had taken precaution to not get his clothes bloody, and that he had removed those items and then put them in a garbage bag and left. And that the clothes were later burned.
He's not a stupid man. He knew enough to cover his tracks. He went in there purposely. He had an intent, he had a purpose, and he went in there to kill her, and he did.
There was anger involved in this crime. This was evil.
But why would Michael kill Renee?
I believe Mike Pagel was very upset with the way the divorce was proceeding, that he didn't get sole custody of the children, that he didn't get the family home. Things just weren't going his way.
He's got motive, and if anybody's got rage, it's the about-to-be ex-husband who's not getting what he wanted.
I think that the writing was on the wall for him that this was the end.
On October 5th, 2020, Michael Pagel is sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison.
I never thought it would take 14 years to bring justice to Renee and to her family. But, you know, you always had in the back of your mind that justice would be served.
It was incredible exhilaration, and I do believe that the information that
Kent Police Switchboard.
Hello, I want to report a missing person. She's my children's mum, and when me and the kids woke up in the morning, she wasn't there, but her car's still outside.
Has she has an accident somewhere or some kind of medical episode, come to some harm where she can't raise the alarm herself?
Half the time they've been found safe and well.
I thought she might have just gone for a nice little weekend away somewhere.
The days went by and we started to realise that something had probably gone wrong.
You just instinctively know that something's wrong, something's not right.
You are under arrest on suspicion of murder of Sarah Welgreen.
In the middle of the Kent countryside lies the quiet residential area of New Ash Green.
New Ash Green was built in the 1960s and 70s as a kind of model village. It's a sort of nice bit of suburbia that's sort of been plonked in the middle of the Kent countryside. Nice place to live, bring up families, there's sports clubs, pretty quiet. There is quite a strong community there. Everyone knows each other and supports each other.
It was the perfect community for popular beautician Sarah Welgreen to set up home with her growing family.
As a daughter, Sarah was everything you could wish for. She was caring, she was incredible fun to be with. Brilliant company on it, you know, we used to love going shopping, ate for lunch, going on holiday together. She was feisty, she was very caring, and she'd always, you know, she'd always stand up for the underdog. Loved her children without question, always there for them. What else can you say?
I lived in the same house for the entire time I was in secondary school. I've always been close to my mum. If I ever needed anything or needed someone to speak to, she would have always been there for me.
As well as sons Jack and Lewis from a previous relationship, Sarah also had 3 children with Ben Lacombe and dedicated her time to her family.
Sarah worked incredibly hard for her children. She had her day job, but she also had clients in the evening and at weekends, so she had her official clients at work, she had unofficial ones, and everything she did for her children. If you went out shopping for the day, invariably the money would be spent on the children. She always made sure they had good holidays, Halloween, Easter, birthdays, never missed a thing.
My mum, she always used to provide for us. She'd rather go without and see us have everything that she could give us, really. She'd always put us before herself, and it really did make her a good mum. It was great. I was proud of how she was and the woman she was.
The couple's dedication to their children meant that when their relationship broke down, they decided to do what was right for the kids.
They were going to co-parent the children together and just have different rooms in the house and just bring their 3 children up together in a household where they'll have their mum and their dad.
Despite the unconventional setup, it worked for both Sarah and Ben, and both started dating once again, with Sarah meeting Neil on a dating app in 2016.
She'd met Neil, who lived in Farnham. They were quite happy.
I did like Neil, and yeah, from the times I met him, he was a nice bloke. Neil did love my mum.
The couple soon got engaged, and there was more exciting news to come.
In October, she phoned me up. She was really, really happy. She just got this brand new job, pays more money, she'll be better off, the kids will be better off, she'll be able to help me out more with anything I need. So she was really excited to start it. So everything was looking up for her.
And she was absolutely thrilled to bits with it. She couldn't wait to get started. And that was, like she said, it's the next phase of my life now.
On 9th of October 2018, just before 8 p.m, Sarah returns home from work still on a high about the new job offer.
She'd come home and she'd been seen arriving, went into the house. She went to bed, texted a boyfriend, sent a few text messages to other people. She told a friend that there's always something to look forward to. You've just got to open your eyes and dream.
The following morning, Sarah's boyfriend Neil texts Sarah, yet he doesn't receive any reply. After a few hours, he calls Sarah's ex, Ben, to ask if he knows where she is. But Ben tells Neil he thought she was with him.
Neil hadn't heard anything and wasn't getting responses back from Sarah, which was unusual. So he had phoned Sarah's parents.
Neil rang me and said, I've been trying to get in touch with Sarah. She's not answering her phone. And I thought, well, Sarah could be a bit scatterbrained. Either her phone would be out of charge or it'd be unplugged or she'd leave it in the car. So I tried to ring her a few times and then I thought, well, when Neil said he couldn't get hold of her, to be honest, I thought maybe she doesn't want to talk to you because it could be a bit intense.
She might have just been ignoring him to begin with, which she could do. So when I tried getting hold of my mum and she wasn't picking up her phone, I'd try through Facebook, texting, phoning some more, just any possible way out to get hold of her. Like tried her other phone, her work phone that she had, but nothing.
The following day, Ben reveals Sarah's still not returned home, and concern for her well-being starts to grow.
Messaged her again and tried WhatsApp, and then I thought, no, this is really, really odd.
I became quite worried because I just wanted to know if she was all right. It's my mum, like, it's the person who's brought me up for my entire life. I just wanted to know that she was okay.
After 48 hours and still no sign of Sarah, Ben decides it's time to call the police.
Kent Police Switchboard.
Hello, I want to report a missing person.
Okay.
She hasn't gone missing before. She lives with me. She's my children's mum. She came home Tuesday night, and then we all went to bed. And then when me and the kids woke up in the morning, she wasn't there. But her car's still outside.
On Thursday, the 11th of October, Ben Lacombe contacted us to report Sarah had gone missing. He told us that he'd come home from work. He said Sarah had come home just before 8 o'clock and she had gone to her room and she had settled herself into her room, which was on the first floor in their house. They stayed in separate rooms in that house. He told us that after putting the children to bed in the evening, he went to bed himself in the loft converted bedroom. And he said he went to sleep, had a full night's sleep. He'd woken up in the morning and found that Sarah's car was still at the address, but she was missing. After Sarah had been reported missing, officers attended the address and we began a missing person investigation.
Officers turned to Ben for help to piece together Sarah's last known movements, but he said he fully expected to see her the next morning, as it was a special occasion.
He wasn't expecting that Sarah would be gone. In fact, that day was one of their children's birthdays, and they had plans, and he'd expected her to be there.
Officers carry out a routine search of Sarah's bedroom and immediately notice something.
What we did find was that Sarah had left behind not only her car, but her car keys, her house keys, her purse, her cash, her bank cards, her handbag. In fact, everything that anybody could tell us that Sarah had was still at the address. Certainly, it looked like she'd gone out without any planning, leaving everything behind.
Concern was now growing.
There was no way she'd have gone out and left her keys behind.
The minute I'd realised that she'd left her handbag behind, with a purse, car keys, and so many other things that
Bank
Sarah,
cards.
of all the people, would never have gone without any of those things.
For somebody that's gone missing, to have left all of those items behind was really strange and really concerning.
You just instinctively know that something's wrong, something's not right. Something's happened to her.
In the quiet suburban area of New Ash Green, concern is building over mum of 5, Sarah Wellgreen, who has been missing for 2 days. With her life seemingly looking up, a new job and a fiancé, police need to ascertain what would make her disappear. So establish a timeline of Sarah's last known movements on the 9th of October, the day she went missing.
It was a normal day for Sarah. She had taken her children to school that morning. She'd then gone out to meet some of her clients. She was a beauty therapist that used to meet some of her clients at their home addresses, so she went out and saw some of those people. And generally had what her family were telling us was a normal day. Sarah drove home and went into her home address. She'd settled herself into her bedroom. We know that she'd phoned her friend and that she was settled down for the night.
When she disappeared, the next morning there was contact between various people who knew her. It was agreed that if she didn't return that day or by the next day, that Ben Lacombe would telephone the police.
Kent Police Switchboard.
Hello, I want to report a missing person. She's my children's mum.
Concerned that her disappearance was out of character, police issue a missing person appeal to the public.
I first became involved when we received a press release from the police initially about a missing person from New Ash Green. They said Sarah Wellgreen had gone missing, there were concerns for her welfare. We get so many cases of missing people that you're probably not too worried to start with. Half the time before you've written a story, file copy about a missing person, the police will send something out saying they've been found safe and well.
But there was something more pressing for the police. Sarah had left her car keys and purse at home, leaving only a couple of scenarios to consider.
I thought maybe she'd gone out for a run and hurt herself.
Has she had an accident somewhere? Has she gone out and had some kind of accident or some kind of medical episode, come to some harm where she can't raise the alarm herself?
With the first few hours of a missing person investigation being critical, police launch a search perimeter around Sarah's home.
They set up a 5-mile radius around New Ash Green for the search effort, scouring woodlands, fields, sheds, wherever anyone could look.
I think they've done all the right searches they could within the area, you know, woodland, scrubland, the mud flaps. They've done all the right checks.
Desperate to reach out to his mum, Lewis turns to social media, and the village community immediately rally round.
Lewis put a call out on Facebook one evening saying his mum was missing and had anybody seen her. And I was thinking, oh, you know, something needs to be done. So I phoned the pavilion. They said, yeah, we can meet people there. We put a shout out on Facebook.
I think the whole village answered the call, really. Everyone turned out.
The response I got from the post on Facebook, it went quite far very, very quickly. It was shared hundreds of times. It got all over social media so quickly. And then it got put into the papers and everything like that as well, just from one little post like that. There was hundreds of people that went. Most of the village in New Ash Green went, and from the surrounding areas went as well. It did give me hope that I would be able to see my mum again.
The search began with combining the efforts of the police and the community, police leading it, of course.
We have walked and searched every piece of woodland, every field, every bit of grazing land.
There was a sort of lingering hope that she'd be found, you know, maybe she was injured or something, or, you know, something had happened, but she was okay, and that they would come across her. But the longer it went on, there was just no news at all about anything like that.
With no sighting of an injured Sarah within a 5-mile radius, police check her digital footprint for any clues into her whereabouts.
The police looked at her telephone evidence, they looked at billing data, they looked at banking evidence, all various sources of evidence, looking at hospitals to see whether or not there was any trace of her.
There was nothing, no footprint at all digitally of Sarah from that point onwards.
With Sarah seemingly having disappeared without a trace, detectives tried to delve into her life.
We spoke to many people, her family, her friends, and other people in the community, people that Sarah had as clients. We were trying to build up that picture of Sarah. She was a happy person at the time. She had just secured a brand new job offer, which she'd accepted, which came with a fixed salary and a company car.
No doubt whatsoever that Sarah would disappear like that. She was so happy. We'd had a drink on the Friday. She was happy. She was full of life.
With all logical avenues as to Sarah's whereabouts exhausted, police start to suspect something more sinister has happened.
The days went by, and we started to realise that something had probably gone wrong.
My suspicions became raised that something had come to cause Sarah some harm, rather than Sarah having just taken herself away. I then was considering, well, who may have caused Sarah harm? Had Sarah gone out and met somebody that was pre-planned, and that person may have then caused Sarah harm? Had Sarah had somebody come to the address and he had taken her away?
But who would have done such a thing? Suddenly, everyone known to her is under scrutiny.
We actually had the police turn up at the house to see if she was there, and it's like, no, we the ones who got someone to phone you? She's obviously not here, but obviously they've got to do their job. They've got to come around and check all addresses that she might be at, things like that. So I understand, but turning up to the address where me and my brother are living.
Despite searching multiple addresses of family and friends, there is no sign of Sarah. And when they speak to Ben again, he admits that despite playing happy families, there's more to Sarah than meets the eye.
He went on to say that Sarah's life is a bit strange. It was a bit weird. He said Sarah often would go missing, would often disappear, would go away without telling us. That actually she would go off and meet other people.
Suddenly, police are met with an endless list of suspects. Did Sarah secretly meet someone she knew that evening? Police begin to look closely at anyone Sarah might be romantically involved with, including fiancé Neil, one of the last people Sarah spoke to.
The police came round with a search van on the Friday. They were there for a couple of hours because we sat down and they were asking questions, chatting about lots of different things, lots of possibilities, everything like that.
Neil tells police that he had a brief conversation with Sarah on the night she went missing.
That night I phoned her at 24 minutes past 9. We had a 15-minute conversation and then we exchanged a couple of texts after that, which was normal, and then we said goodnight.
Detectives check his phone records and confirm these calls, but he still needs to prove he was at home in Surrey when he made the calls.
I had my daughter, who at the time was 3, overnight anyway, and so they knew I wouldn't take a 3-year-old all the way over to Kent around the M25. As I said to them, look, if that's any concern, then just check the M25 cameras.
Neil's story is quickly verified, so attention turns to other friends and acquaintances.
We had a lot of people involved in Sarah's life, and we did a significant amount of work to show how they could not have been there that evening. They could not have been with Sarah that evening. And in all of the evidence that we found around Sarah, through her messaging, through her contacts, through her phone, we had nothing to say that Sarah had made any plans that night to go anywhere. There was nothing to say that she'd gone out.
1 week into the investigation, and Sarah remains missing.
You struggle to take it all in to begin with. There's just so many people trying to get hold of you, message you to make sure you're okay. It's hard to explain in a way of how it sort of makes you feel, because you're a mixture between angry, upset, worried, and you just want to know where she is. That's all it is. You just want to know that she's okay.
The desperate search for Sarah intensifies. Police trawl CCTV cameras from neighbouring homes in the village on the day Sarah disappeared.
We captured on CCTV some footage that we were able to see from a neighbour's address. Sarah drove home and she parked her car outside her home around 5 to 8 in the evening on that Tuesday. She then went into her home address.
Police keep watching the CCTV, and suddenly all becomes clear.
And it was from that moment that he became a suspect for potentially.
In the quiet residential village of New Ash Green, the community is desperately waiting for news into the disappearance of Sarah Wellgreen, who vanished from her home the night before her young child's birthday. Ben Lacombe says Sarah returned home from work and both retired to their separate bedrooms. When he woke in the morning, she had gone. But a neighbour's CCTV camera reveals something unusual at 2 a.m. on the night of her disappearance.
The CCTV imagery demonstrated captures of a vehicle which was in all ways similar to the vehicle driven by Ben Lacombe, and it had, because it was a taxi, a distinctive logo on the driver's side of the door. And one of the captures, although it was very grainy in the night, had a blur consistent with that same logo.
With some expert commissioned work around the imagery that we've got and comparing that to the vehicle itself, we had very strong evidence to say that that footage was that vehicle.
Believing the vehicle to be Ben's taxi, detectives trawl CCTV and ANPR cameras in the neighbourhood in an attempt to follow the vehicle's movements.
His taxi had been caught on CCTV cameras going out of New Ash Green and down country lanes, going south and finally at Plaxell Green Lane, at which point it had kind of disappeared.
And then a little while later on, there were captures of an almost identical vehicle travelling back the other way. And that was key because there was no vehicle that went out and back in that way.
So we now had Ben Lacombe's vehicle on the move between around 2 a.m. in the morning to around 4:30 a.m. in the morning, the night that Sarah had gone missing. So why was Ben Lacombe's vehicle moving for 2.5 hours or so that night when he said he was alone, asleep in his own bedroom all night?
Despite neighbour CCTV capturing his vehicle return at 4:30 a.m, was it really Ben who was driving it the night Sarah vanished? Detectives rewind the footage to see if anyone else entered the property before Sarah arrived home.
Ben Lacombe told us that he'd come home from work. CCTV footage showed that he came home about 5:10 in the evening.
Detectives keep watching, but no one else is seen entering the property before Sarah arrives. But it was the neighbour's CCTV which flagged up another interesting detail.
Ben Lacombe had a sophisticated CCTV system installed at his own address.
From the neighbour's CCTV, we were able to see, going back and viewing 3 months' worth of footage, that the CCTV cameras on Ben Lacombe's house was on almost every single night running up to when Sarah went missing. And we know that because you can see the infrared lights of the cameras through the other footage to see when they're on and when they're switched off. So we know that after midnight, the cameras were switched off on Ben Lacombe's house.
With more and more discrepancies in Ben's account, police start to believe he knows more about Sarah's disappearance than he lets on, and start to piece together his movements.
We are able to show that when Ben Lacombe drove home from work the day that Sarah went missing, he'd passed some cameras and we could see that his car was spotlessly clean. The following morning after Sarah had gone missing, Ben Lacombe took the children to school, passing other CCTV cameras. Now that morning, the car is now dirty. There is mud up both sides of his car and around the tyres and the wheels of his car, but wasn't there when we saw him arrive home the day before. Around 10:30 that morning, he went to the office where his cab firm is that he worked for to see one of his colleagues. When we see it arrive outside that office, the car is spotlessly clean again.
It appears that on the night Sarah went missing, Ben Lacombe drove somewhere in his vehicle, resulting in it getting covered in mud. But there's a 2-hour window where the vehicle goes off radar. So where did he drive to? And where is Sarah? Having carried out some good old-fashioned detective work, and despite not having found a body, police make a decision.
So it was on the Monday, doing a formal review of what we had so far, that we moved the investigation from being a missing person investigation into the next day, when it became a homicide investigation.
They said they weren't going to do a television appeal, and I thought, they know something's happened. And Anya, you just know that you're not going to see her again. You know that.
Police believe Ben Lacombe murdered Sarah, but with no cause of death or clear motive, need to work harder than ever to build a case for an arrest. Phone records prove Sarah sent her final text at 10 p.m. Their home CCTV was switched off at midnight, giving Ben a 2-hour window in which police believe he killed Sarah, before putting her in his car and driving off.
The defendant having driven to some kind of deposition site, a grave where he had disposed of Sarah's body.
And then returned along the same route, where he's picked up again on CCTV. There was mud on his car the next day, which he had cleaned off promptly before going to the taxi office.
It was a pre-planned murder that Ben carried out. He killed Sarah. And myself and my team at the Major Crime Department, we instigated plans on that day to have Ben Lacombe arrested on suspicion of the murder of Sarah Welgreen.
Please, can you open the door, please? Morning.
You reported her missing. Your arrest is necessary to allow you to be questioned about the offence. Understand? Understand that? Okay, you don't have to say anything about harm offence. You mention and question later on in court. Anything you do say may be evidence.
When I found out that, he'd actually been arrested for murder, there's a feeling of anger, hurt, hate, all of the things that you'd associate with your partner being killed.
It's just a massive shock to the system. It's just unbelievable what goes through your mind. Now all the questions is where is she? What did he do? How did he do it? Did she suffer? Was it quick? You just don't know the answers to it.
Okay. So you are under arrest today on suspicion of the murder of your ex-partner, and I understand you still live in the same address, that's Sarah Welgreen. Now, as I say, you're here on suspicion of murdering her. We believe she may be dead, and that may be at your hand. So, did you kill her?
The pressure is on to find Sarah's body, establish a cause of death, and prove a motive to enable police to charge their suspect.
It was a vast operation, and one that has involved help from not only officers and staff from across Kent Police, but from across other forces nationally, using experts from the fire service, the marine unit searching water, searching confined spaces. We've searched around 1,400 different areas. We haven't found Sarah.
With searches proving fruitless and the clock ticking, detectives press Ben further.
So, I'm not clear at the moment, Ben, whether you're just trying to think of an answer or whether you've decided not to answer the question.
He remained utterly silent. He did not answer any of our questions. He did not give us any information. He stayed absolutely silent and stared at the floor through 7 hours worth of interviews.
After failing to answer any questions, and despite no body being found, police charge Ben with the murder of Sarah Welgreen. But what really went on that night? And why did their once-loving relationship end in such a tragedy? In a Kent village, the body of mum of 5, Sarah Welgreen, has still not been found, but police pursue a case of murder and have charged 38-year-old taxi driver Ben Lacombe.
It's hard to believe that it's happening to you. I know you see things like that, everything going on in the news, and see it all in the newspapers and things like that all the time. You never think it'll hit home, never, until one day it just turns up on your doorstep.
In September 2019, the trial into a no-body murder case begins at Woolwich Crown Court.
When you prosecute a case in which the body of the deceased has not been found, it presents unique challenges in the trial. And those challenges is to demonstrate that the defendant that you're prosecuting is responsible for killing the deceased.
The prosecution reveals to the court a conversation between Ben and police a few days before he was arrested.
We asked Ben Lacombe if we could take information from his mobile phone, and he said to us that actually he wouldn't give us his phone. It was very late. He wanted to go to sleep, and he would give us his phone the next day. As it turned out, and what we later captured on CCTV, was that Ben Lacombe didn't go to bed. He left the address. He travelled around and went into the Dartford and the Greenhithe area and parked up for a few minutes late at night near the River Thames.
There was CCTV footage of the defendant in the pouring rain, desperately trying to get rid of something. And the prosecution suggested that that was the defendant trying to get rid of his own telephone. We knew from other evidence that he had purchased a new telephone in the days that followed Sarah's disappearance. And he was obviously keen to get rid of his own telephone, a telephone which could have given the police an indication of his whereabouts on the night of the 9th of October.
The prosecution reveals further evidence linking Ben to murder.
Although the police didn't know exactly what had happened to Sarah's body, they knew that there had been a period of an hour and a half or so where that vehicle had disappeared. And it seemed likely that as part of the planning, Ben Lacombe had already chosen where it was he was going to dispose of Sarah's body. It may even have been that he had already dug her grave.
When we did a search of Sarah Wellgreen and Ben Lacombe's home, we found a very large shovel in his shed.
The defendant's account of why he needed a shovel of that type at his trial would later become that the shovel was there for his mother to use to tend to the flower beds at the front of his property. Well, on any view, the flower beds at the property didn't require a shovel of that size, and the explanation given just simply wasn't a credible reason for having a shovel of that type. But it was a shovel that was relatively new in its appearance and was consistent with the type of implement that someone would use to dig a grave quickly.
Despite presenting their evidence to court, police still have no obvious motive as to why Ben would kill the mother of his 3 children. But as the trial unfolds, more information about the couple and their relationship comes to light.
Ben Lacombe was born in Greenwich, grew up in Charlton. Early 2000s, he moved to Mallorca, where he was hoping to find work as an airline pilot, or train as an airline pilot.
In December 2004, Ben met Sarah via an online dating site.
In the beginning, when Ben first met my mum, from what I could tell as a child, he was a nice bloke. For what me and Jack had seen, he was all right, he was nice. And everything seemed great, really, to begin with.
Desperate to create a stable home environment and provide her sons with a father figure and a better lifestyle, Sarah quit her job and moved to Mallorca to start over with Ben and her 2 sons.
Obviously, Sarah thought, oh, this is going to be a good life. You know, I really want to give this a try. And it did sound good.
But it became clear to the courtroom that their new life in the sun didn't work out as planned. Unable to speak the language, Sarah couldn't get a job and missed her family and friends back in the UK. Ben's dream to become an airline pilot failed to materialise, and instead he worked a low-paid airport job.
In the end, they moved back to England. By that point, they'd had their first child together, and they moved to New Ash Green.
The couple settled into village life. Sarah got a good job while Ben started working as a taxi driver. But cracks soon started to appear in their relationship.
They muddled along, arguing, bickering, fighting for months after that. And they finally split up. Sarah had made her mind up. She'd had enough.
But if Sarah thought splitting with Ben was going to be easy, she was mistaken. He threw her, Lewis and Jack out on the street, keeping their 3 youngest children inside the house with him.
I was angry with Ben, but that had been built up through a few months of just listening to the arguments and things like that, and then that just throwing us all out, it was just unfair on us, really. We had nowhere else to go.
The next morning, Ben already had a court hearing arranged, and he stated in court that Sarah abandoned her children. Could he have custody? And he was awarded custody. It was all pre-planned, and Sarah could not defend herself because she did not know what was happening.
Distraught that she no longer had access to her youngest 3 children, Sarah and her 2 eldest sons moved in with her mum and stepdad.
We were absolutely devastated. You see your child crying and you can't help them. And we literally scraped up everything we had to go and see a solicitor.
But things took a positive turn for Sarah in August 2016, when she was awarded full custody of the children. Not only that, she met boyfriend Neil. Despite this, Sarah was terrified that Ben would attempt to take the children away from her if she moved in with Neil. So she made an unlikely peace offering with Ben to raise their 3 children under the same roof.
Sarah wasn't happy about living with Ben. There was definitely animosity between the 2 of them. You know, they'd been together for a number of years. That didn't work out for various different reasons.
Yet Sarah had a plan: to buy Ben out of their 4-bedroom family home. And she soon secured a new job with a big enough pay rise to make this happen. And after arriving home from work on 9th October 2018, she tells Ben her plan.
Ultimately, Ben had lost control. The house was going to be put up for sale. He was going to lose his home, even though he was going to get half the equity.
And he'd lost not just, the property which he loved so much, but he'd lost control of the children.
When you look at Ben Lacombe, he would have been left with almost nothing.
Because he would have found himself in a position that Sarah was in not long before. And I think that probably pressured him into doing something stupid.
Ben was the only one that would have a motive for killing Sarah. Nobody else. Ben had everything to gain from getting Sarah out of the picture permanently.
After a gruelling 30-day trial at Woolwich Crown Court, the jury returns its verdict. Ben is found guilty of Sarah Walgreen's murder. He is sentenced to 27 years in prison.
"27 years for Ben Lacombe is not enough. Ben Lacombe should never see the light of day until he admits to those 5 children where he's put their mother. I've got one child who came home crying the other day because they wanted their mummy to pick them up from school one last time. So no, not enough.
The case of Sarah Walgreen is among a small number of convicted murder cases in the UK in which the victim's body has never been found. But the community has never given up hope of finding her.
We give the family hope that one day they will be able to find her, otherwise they've not got that hope to hold on to.
And that they know that we're still looking, and they know that we won't stop looking, do they?
It's not been forgotten.
No, not at all.
We would like closure. All of us would like closure. For the body to be disclosed, to have a proper funeral, will probably help us all put it to bed.
2 years on from her disappearance, Sarah's family are slowly coming to terms with life without her.
Ben's actions have caused me to lose my mum, for some of my siblings to lose their mother and their father at the exact same time. And it's just, it's an unthinkable thing. It really is. You never expect anything like this to ever happen to you, and you wouldn't wish it on the worst person. It's just a horrible, sunken feeling and just a hole in your heart that you'll never fill.
It is very raw. There's not a day goes by when you don't think about her, whether it's something that's played on the radio, or you see something, oh, Sarah would like that, or something the children say. Yeah, there is never a day goes by, and I don't think that will ever change for any of us.
And until she is found, the question remains, where is Sarah Wellgreen?